Hey everyone. Hope you're all doing well. We're all about bringing high-quality web novel audiobooks to life, and most of our content is completely free to enjoy. Just a quick note, web novels and web novel audiobooks aren't the same thing. Simply reading a novel out loud doesn't always make for a great listening experience. That's why I go through multiple rounds of rewriting and careful editing for every chapter to make sure the narration flows naturally and immerses you in the story, just like reading it yourself. These audiobooks are not just direct copies of the original novels. I've adapted them for a smoother, more engaging experience. And to be fully transparent, these adaptations are made for commercial purposes, so some chapters are paid content. But don't worry, this process is fully copyright compliant. I do all of this because I truly love web novels and audiobooks. I'm a huge fan, and this story is one of my personal favorites. YouTube update: recently, YouTube flagged some of our content for including mature themes, realistic violence, and darker story elements. As a result, we've decided to stop uploading anything that violates YouTube's guidelines. If you'd like access to the full, uncut versions including the more intense or mature content, you can find them on our Patreon page, where we upload everything first. Available now on Patreon: I Am a Legendary Boss audiobook, Versatile Mage starting with the White Tiger Pendant, Naruto the Wind Calamity, the Necromancer is amassing troops like crazy in the apocalypse, the mighty dragons are dead, Naruto, leader of Hidden Grass Village, Naruto Uchiha's Unserious Saga, your lord has a screw loose, Apocalypse I can see the health point bar, killing monsters drops loot, Starsea Fleet Age of the Lord, my monster fuses everything, Naruto, I traveled with a max level account, Fate in Bleach Unlimited Blade Works, killed for 100 years in Hueco Mundo, Aizen invited me to Soul Society, the world Conquest giving birth to become a god, my master only breaks through on the edge of death, Bleach the Invincible Slacker from Rukongai, Naruto's Special Shop, One Piece the strongest female pirate cruise, Reborn as Danzō's grandson, must I offend the entire ninja world, Naruto starting with snatching the Mangekyo Sharingan, Naruto Card King, in Hueco Mundo with Shindu template, Naruto the Hidden Danzō, my journey as fourth Kusagakure, Naruto Troublesome Ninja Haruto, Naruto the Hyuga Mastermind, Bleach the strongest Shinigami, Bleach the 5th Division Captain, Fate Ultimate Antagonist, Fate of DXD, Fate I Heard After Death, you can ascend to the throne of heroes, Fate DXD Archer Reborn, Fate beginning with Type Moon, a Berserk Heart, Fate Grand Order Insert, One Piece take the Uchiha clan to the Grand Line, One Piece don't worry, I'm a doctor, building harem and dungeon with monster girls, DXD, Multiverse the day-to-day life of the Sephiroth hero, I'm the bad guy but heroines are obsessed with me, in Naruto, I have an affair with Mikoto and Kushina, many children bring happiness, a shameless start, Naruto Reborn with a Tenseigan, Naruto sleeping Invincible, One Piece, life choice ask me to kiss marine goddess Hina, reborn as the genius son of the richest family, start by eating jacket fruit model, jacket human devil fruit, the days of being the richest man in the ninja world, the Witcher and Madara Uchiha, villain I possess the dragon Yang Dao physique, all saintesses turns into villainesses, all beautiful girls want to stick with me, interdimensional farming in another world, Naruto from Hidden Leaf Village to One Piece, and more. Most of our content there is free, and it's the best place to follow and support our work. The default audio speed is set to 3x, but if that's too fast for you, just let me know, I'm happy to adjust it. Got a favorite web novel you'd love to hear as an audiobook? Drop a suggestion. I'm always open to new ideas. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Twitter, X for the latest updates, new releases, and behind-the-scenes content. Thanks so much for your continued support and happy listening. Chapter 1, Khaenri'ah. In the darkest depths, there lies a ruined royal city. The enormous scale of the city and the broken bricks and tiles of the magnificent buildings show its former glory and strength. However, that has all become a thing of the past. The street market, once brightly lit, has long been in ruins. The ground is cracked, and there are ruins and debris everywhere. It has been abandoned for hundreds of years. Wet and sticky vines and moss have given this trauma-filled city an aged appearance. Looking at the ruins before him, Yizai felt a little confused. He had just crossed over and was still somewhat disoriented. Zai, this is simply a miracle. I didn't expect you to break free from the curse of immortality. How did you do it? Next to Yizai was a boy with yellow hair, his face full of surprise. This person, Yizai knows. He is the male protagonist of the original game. For people who have been playing Genshin for 2 years, seeing game characters appear in front of them is beyond shocking. Suddenly, Yizai felt a sharp pain in his brain, and then strange memories emerged. It was as if a movie was playing in his mind, with countless images flashing by. The original owner of this body was a royal noble from the kingdom of Khaenri'ah, 500 years ago, who studied the abyss and ley lines at the kingdom's research institute. Due to his powerful swordsmanship and sharp mind, he was once hailed as the next king of the royal family. At that time, given the extremely dangerous power of the abyss, he repeatedly advised King Ermin to abandon his plan to explore the abyss. Unfortunately, his advice, along with that of court mage Hueco, couldn't outweigh the counsel of the grand sage of the time, the alchemist of gold, Renadatar. At the time, Khaenri'ah was proud of the power of the unholy kingdom and believed they could easily control the power of the abyss. Then came the disaster. It wasn't because the power of the abyss spiraled out of control, but rather because there was a punishment from Celestia. When the seven descended upon Khaenri'ah, the golden alchemist completely succumbed before the death of the gods, unleashing the power of darkness. The power of the abyss turned into a catastrophe in an instant, dragging all of Khaenri'ah into extreme peril. Fortunately, he was skilled with a sword and survived the disaster. He thought that was the end of it, but then the laws of heaven struck again. All those who carry the blood of Khaenri'ah would lose their sanity under the burden of eternal life. Those who defected to Khaenri'ah would be corroded by the power of the abyss and turned into monsters. By now, the citizens of Khaenri'ah have transformed into abyssal monsters, and the curse of immortality has completely destroyed Khaenri'ah. Later, the original owner of the body lost his sanity after 500 years of torment. Since he and Aether used to be good friends, after he lost himself, Aether brought him back to Khaenri'ah to meet his end. At that moment, Yizai arrived. He successfully inherited this body and miraculously freed himself from the curse of immortality. After understanding the situation, Yizai fell into deep thought. Now what to do? Zai, this is the beginning. If you can break free from the curse of undeath, you can bring hope to Khaenri'ah. Yizai felt a headache when he saw Aether, whose expression had become fanatical, and the excited abyssal apostles. Against the heavens? Against what exactly? At that time, Aether was summoned by Khaenri'ah and considered the national treasure of Khaenri'ah, so Aether had special feelings for the kingdom. Since the fall of Khaenri'ah, Aether has vowed to avenge the kingdom, not hesitating to use the power of the abyss. Now that Yizai has freed himself from the curse of immortality, Aether will definitely drag him into the great cause of restoring Khaenri'ah. However, in the face of Celestia and the Seven, his strength is not enough. Just as he was thinking this, an ethereal voice suddenly echoed. Ding, the branches and leaves system has been activated, concubines and children, many rewards await, superpowers, divine powers, immortal abilities, advanced weapons. Concubines who are willing to follow the host will also gain special abilities. The host is requested to take a concubine as soon as possible and spread branches and leaves for Khaenri'ah. Take the newbie gift pack. Do you want to receive it? A series of beeps made Yizai rejoice. This system is truly wonderful. He immediately asked Aether beside him, Aether, can I join you? As soon as these words were spoken, Aether nodded as if it were only natural. Of course. As the purest bloodline of Khaenri'ah, you've also escaped the curse of immortality. Naturally, you are the leader of our Khaenri'ah restoration plan. Besides, you were once crowned king. Although you can't ascend the throne in the future, looking at the current state of Khaenri'ah, no one is qualified to ascend the throne except you. Me, as king. Yizai shook his head and said, Aether, you are the prince of the abyss and should be the king of Khaenri'ah. Stop joking, Zai. With sincerity in his eyes, he smiled and said, I will travel to other worlds in the future, and you're the only one who can become the king of Khaenri'ah. The Abyss Mage and the Black Serpent Knight beside him knelt and bowed their heads to Yizai. His Highness is right, the only one who can become king is Yizai. Yizai is our new king. My lord, please give us orders. We must let the glory of Khaenri'ah blossom once more on the continent of Vet. We are willing to follow you. Just please defeat Celestia and avenge your people. These citizens of Khaenri'ah, cursed and tainted, spoke prayers that shook their souls. Zai, for the sake of Khaenri'ah, we need to quickly increase our strength. We must overthrow the heavens' rule and rebuild a new order. Seeing the sincere expressions of everyone, Yizai had no choice but to say, very well. Since you have prayed to me with such devotion, I shall answer you. The Black Serpent Knights and Abyss Apostles erupted into enthusiastic cheers. Yizai waved his hand, and the surroundings suddenly fell silent. He looked at Aether and said, Aether, I believe that the restoration of Khaenri'ah has something more important than fighting against the heavens. What could be more important? With a puzzled look on Aether's face, Yizai asked, what do you think is the key to Khaenri'ah's recovery? Without hesitation, Aether replied, of course, it's power. We must grow stronger. We must continue to grow stronger. There is still an unfinished war between us and Celestia. Yizai sighed, shook his head, and said, before gaining power, the population of Khaenri'ah is more important. How many people are left in Khaenri'ah now? How many are deeply cursed? How many are affected by the abyss? In this situation, how can we restore the kingdom? Hearing these words, Ether was struck as if by lightning, nodding repeatedly. That makes sense. I've been so focused on revenge against Celestia that I forgot about the people of Khaenri'ah. Yizai seized the moment and said, then, the restoration of Khaenri'ah must begin with spreading branches and leaves. Ether suddenly fell into deep thought. Chapter 2, you spread the branches and leaves, and I'll handle Celestia. Looking at Ether, who was lost in thought, Yizai felt quite powerless. The current Khaenri'ah doesn't have the strength to deal with Celestia. Once Celestia gets angry, they will just be reduced to cannon fodder. Although his swordsmanship is very strong and his aptitude extraordinary, compared to the ruler of the heavens, he is simply vulnerable. To be honest, he really wanted to give up the plan now. On the surface, he said he would join them, but in reality, he had found an excuse to withdraw and live a stable life. Even though he carried the mission of Khaenri'ah's revenge, in essence, he didn't have much affection for Khaenri'ah anymore. With the system's tricks, it's definitely not bad to get by in that. He just didn't expect to be pushed onto the throne so suddenly. Thinking about it, it's actually quite good. He had just arrived in that, and it would be difficult for him to win the favor of so many women through his own strength. First of all, he's from Khaenri'ah. Many people know that life conceived by the people of Khaenri'ah degenerates into an abyssal monster. With that in mind, who would want to approach someone from Khaenri'ah? Secondly, he didn't want to wear himself out trying to please people in exchange for goodwill. Lick the dog, until there's nothing left. Of course, he wouldn't force the king to bend to his will. Doing so would be shameful and go against his 3 principles. As a result, it would be even harder to make good use of the branches and leaves system. But becoming the king of Khaenri'ah is different. When Khaenri'ah was destroyed, only the 7 gods and heavenly principles came. After the war, the people of Khaenri'ah became monsters. In other words, no one cleared the battlefield. So, most of the treasures of the entire kingdom of Khaenri'ah, whether they were treasures or the properties of nobles and commoners, were preserved. As the saying goes, money can ward off ghosts. With the temptation of so much wealth, there must be girls willing to follow him. That's why Yizai didn't refuse when he was promoted to king earlier. On the other side, Ether, who had been thinking for a long time, was very conflicted. Logically, the main task of restoring Khaenri'ah is to continuously improve strength and defeat Celestia. But when he thought about it carefully, the people of Khaenri'ah were also very important. Because of the curse, he had never considered this before. After all, newborns from Khaenri'ah would just degenerate into abyssal monsters. Now that Yizai mentioned it, he suddenly realized. If the war with Celestia fails, there will be no inheritance left in Khaenri'ah. Zai, what you said makes sense. After thinking it through, Ether nodded repeatedly and said, now that you've gotten rid of the curse of immortality, your descendants won't degenerate into abyssal monsters. So, the only person who can spread the branches and leaves for Khaenri'ah is you. I propose we split into 2 groups. I'll be responsible for gathering forces and avenging the law of heaven, and you will be responsible for spreading the branches and leaves for Khaenri'ah and strengthening the people. Hearing Ether's response, Yizai smiled and said, no problem, it's just that the cost of spreading branches and leaves is relatively high, so I need some time. What are you talking about, Zai? You're the king of Khaenri'ah, how could you not have more? As Ether spoke, he took out a key from his pocket and solemnly said, this is the key to Khaenri'ah's treasure. The treasure holds the inheritance left by Khaenri'ah at that time. I sent people to gather all the scattered inheritance into the treasure vault. Now, return it to its rightful owner. Well done. What a gesture. After hearing Ether's words, Yizai thought Ether would forever be a good brother. So thoughtful. Truly remarkable. He put away the key and was about to speak when he heard Ether's voice. Ether pointed to the Abyss Apostles and Black Serpent Knights around them and said, also, those affected by the Abyss are your people too, and they will follow your orders. But I also need manpower here. Yizai nodded without hesitation. Ether, I don't need many people on my side, and you have fewer people on yours. Let them follow you. These Black Serpent Knights and Abyss Apostles cannot be exposed to the sun, otherwise, they'll be attacked by many adventurers. Keeping these people by his side would make it difficult to move and would scare the girls away. Let me ask, what girl could tolerate abyss monsters wandering around the house every day and still have a peaceful baby? Even the men would be scared. Instead, it's better to let them follow Ether, and it doesn't matter if you have fewer people on your side. Ether was suddenly moved. He had been fighting alone for 500 years and often felt lonely. Now he finally had the feeling of finding support. And someone who thought about him. Zai. I'm so glad you've awakened. I will definitely defeat Celestia, but I won't let you and those innocent lives who oppose the use of abyssal power perish under the curse. Zai, let's work together to restore the glory of Khaenri'ah. Chapter 3, The Rich Legacy of the Kingdom of Khaenri'ah. Yizai had no doubts about Ether's sincerity. because he could feel that Ether was truly angry at Celestia actions 500 years ago. In fact, even he, a traveler, felt deeply confused. Why should innocent citizens who died have to bear the curse? The decision to use the power of the Abyss was made by the upper royal family and had nothing to do with the innocent people. The sinners were King Ermin, Renadatar, and those scholars who insisted on using the power of the Abyss. If Celestia wanted to stop Khaenri'ah, they could have started with a verbal warning, and only then should the 7 gods have been sent directly to destroy Khaenri'ah, much like setting fire to an oil barrel. And Renadatar is a complete sinner, one who truly unleashed the full chains of the abyssal power, dragging the entire nation down with her. Both Celestia and Renadatar are extremists. The most detestable thing is that the laws of heaven made no distinction between right and wrong, casting a curse to completely subdue Khaenri'ah. Even those who fought against the abyss alongside other nations weren't spared. So Yizai felt confused. Couldn't they have just sat down calmly and talked things out? In any case, what's done is done, and there's no need to dwell on the past. After Yizai and Ether determined their next course of action, the Abyss Apostles and Black Serpent Knights were thrilled. News of the birth of a new king in Khaenri'ah spread rapidly throughout the Abyss Order. For a time, the entire order was buzzing with excitement. We finally have a new king. It's Lord Yizai. What? It's him. At this moment, a Black Serpent Knight suddenly spoke up. I know this lord. He was a scholar in our kingdom's research institute, and the strongest swordsman among the nobles. He was hailed as the new king back then. Before the Black Serpent Knight was corroded by the power of the Abyss, he was an elite member of Khaenri'ah's royal guard. Under the curse of the heavenly laws, the royal guard transformed into Black Serpent Knights, immortal warriors. After years of wear and tear, the Black Serpent Knights would lose consciousness and memory, becoming hollow shells, like zombies. At this moment, the Black Serpent Knight still had his memories and could recall things from 500 years ago. Hearing the exclamation from the Black Serpent Knight, all the Abyss mages let out flattering praises. This is great. Master Yizai is king, he truly deserves the title. Khaenri'ah is coming back. Finally coming back. I heard our king has broken free from that damned curse. What did you say? As expected of our new king. So we'll have a chance to return to our original forms. When the voices reached this point, there was a hush. Because everyone present longed for that day. Hundreds of years. Although they had long been disheartened and despairing, who would willingly accept their current state? Ugly. Fallen. Their voices hoarse. Their habits drastically changed. Once, they were also humans with healthy limbs. Originally, they had given up the desire to return to being human, but now the example of Yizai breaking the curse had appeared, rekindling hope in their silent hearts. Protect Khaenri'ah and all its people, that was the last order every soldier received. So, I must do my part to rebuild Khaenri'ah. I don't care anymore, what matters is Khaenri'ah's future. Our king is very wise. He and His Royal Highness have split into 2 groups. His Royal Highness will strengthen our nation's power. Our king is spreading new blood for our country. What a brilliant king. We have no choice but to support the new king and become the king's sword. Intense discussions turned into immortal beliefs and spread among the Abyss Order. Countless figures swore loyalty to the new king. Though these voices did not reach Yizai's ears. At this moment, Yizai had arrived at the kingdom's treasure vault. He wanted to determine the treasure's size, which would shape his future plans for taking Concubines. Recalling the memory from back then, Yizai found a massive wall. In the center of the wall, there was a beam mechanism. Yizai took the key to the mechanism from his arm, and the next moment, the key was sucked into the mechanism. A burst of light erupted throughout the mechanism, followed by a sound. Boom. The wall began to vibrate, and an incalculable amount of dust fell like a waterfall. Ahem. Yizai stepped back a few paces, and finally, the dusty door slowly opened. There must be a lot of inheritance in all of Khaenri'ah, right? Although Yizai had mentally prepared himself, when the door opened, the dazzling golden light that erupted from within still made him gasp in awe. Whistle, for a moment, he was blinded by the light inside. Mara. All golden Mora. The entire vault was as large as several basketball courts, and Mora stacked like hills rose from the ground like mountains. Among the Mara, there were countless gemstones of different colors. Casually piled on the ground, it was so inhumane. It was a bit more extravagant than Li's golden house. Yizai, who had never seen such wealth before, couldn't help but feel his heart beat a little faster, admitting that Khaenri'ah had indeed been powerful back then, and extremely wealthy. There must be hundreds of billions of Mora? At the edge of the Mora heap, there were many bookshelves. The collection quickly caught Yizai's attention. He recognized the books. These were all research materials from the cultivators of Khaenri'ah back then. The land is not plowed with agricultural tools, but fought for with iron and blood, The so-called cultivation machines were not used for farming but were the machines modern people called ruin guards. With these materials, he could create new cultivators. Yizai believed that these machines could be even more valuable than Mora. After a brief glance at the treasure vault's inheritance, Yizai couldn't help but feel moved. For someone who had no money, the feeling of suddenly acquiring billions made him want to open a bottle of wine to celebrate. At this moment, Yizai had a thought and suddenly came up with a brilliant idea. Chapter 4, Hiring a Wife with a Fortune. People with a vision start at 100 million Mora. You're going to issue a commission directly to the Adventurers Guild? Upon hearing Yizai's plan, Ether exclaimed in surprise. He hadn't expected Yizai to be so bold. That's right. Khaenri'ah has been asleep for centuries, it's time to return to the light of day. Yizai had been investigating the Abyss Order's actions over the years, and he had to admit they had made significant progress. They had at least established outposts in several nations. These strongholds could be used for exchanging intelligence, hiding allies, and finding the remaining forces of Khaenri'ah. His proposal was simple: first head to the nearest place, Sumeru. He would use a fortress there as a base and publicly issue a commission. The offer? Any women willing to marry into the kingdom of Khaenri'ah would receive a generous dowry. And those who bore heirs would get an additional pension. He planned to spend money to attract interest directly. This method would save time and effort. After hearing Yizai's plan, Ether nodded thoughtfully. Indeed, this seems like the fastest approach. But in doing so, the Sumeru law enforcers will certainly come to investigate. And if they find abyss creatures nearby? Yizai nodded and replied, I don't plan on bringing everyone. I'll go alone. What? That's too dangerous. Ether protested. You're the new king of Khaenri'ah. If something happens to you, the future of our kingdom will be ruined. Not only Ether, but several abyss apostles also grew alarmed. My lord, your safety is paramount. We cannot risk our new king. Please reconsider. Yizai silenced them with a wave of his hand. Don't worry. Remember, I was also an elite swordsman of the kingdom back in the day. And as long as I present myself as an ordinary Khaenri'ah with no threat, the church and law enforcement won't have anything to do with me. I've already made my decision. Once the king had spoken, no amount of protest would change his mind. Ether saw that the matter was decided, but his eyes were filled with worry. Zai, please be careful. A few days later, Yizai arrived in Sumeru City. Everywhere, the air was filled with an exotic atmosphere, and the passers-by exuded a sense of seriousness and wisdom. This was the City of Wisdom. Here, Yizai had acquired a stronghold. After several days of renovations, the place had been transformed into the courtyard of a large family estate. Curiosity about the grand complex grew among the people of Sumeru. Real estate in Sumeru was precious, each inch of land was worth its weight in gold. Soon, rumors started to spread. Inside the towering walls, Yizai dressed meticulously, ready to head to the Adventurers Guild to issue his commission. He looked at his reflection in the mirror and nodded with satisfaction. His unique star-like eyes, a signature of Khaenri'ah, combined with his handsome face, gave him an air of both strength and reliability. Recently, he had unlocked the system's beginner gift pack, which had reshaped his body. His previous form, ravaged by 5 centuries of destruction, had long lost its vitality. But now, after the system's transformation, it was as if he had been reborn. His muscles, skin, meridians, and bones had been remolded, stronger, younger, and more powerful than ever before. The system had used the snow melt from Dragon's Pine Mountain to create his blood, replaced his bones with those from Loose Peaks, and shaped his flesh with the fruits of Sumeru's dashing forest. His skin was woven with the thunder of Inazuma, his spine filled with ice from the solstice, and his tears and sweat mingled with the nectar of Fontaine. His meridians were forged with the flames of Natlan. In summary, he had become a new man. His DNA was blessed by the starry skies, his soul baptized by the abyss. At this point, all that was left was to acquire an official Hueco from that. He had also gained a portable storage space to keep his belongings, where he stored a large sum of Mora and various gems. After everything was prepared, he left his estate and headed for the Adventurers Guild. When Catherine, the guild's receptionist, saw the commission Yizai issued, she was stunned. Are you sure you want to post this? She could hardly believe what she was reading. Hiring a wife with a fortune, to expand my bloodline, I, Yizai of Khaenri'ah, am recruiting healthy young women, requirements, no bad habits, good personality, willing to bear children. For an ordinary woman from a good family, the dowry is 5 million Mora, with another 5 million Mora for bearing a child. For a powerful adventurer, the dowry is 10 million Mora, with an additional 10 million for bearing a child. For an intelligent scholar, the dowry is 15 million Mora, with another 15 million for bearing a child. Those with a vision in any of the above categories will receive 10 times the pay. Bearing a child will bring another tenfold reward. Upon seeing the sheer amount of mora listed in the commission, Catherine's mind went blank. What was the concept of millions of mora being handed out like this? In the Adventurers Guild, most commissions were modest. A simple delivery might cost a few thousand mora. More difficult missions might rise to tens of thousands. Only extremely challenging tasks involving entire adventure parties went above 100,000 mora. But this commission wasn't just in the millions. If someone with a vision accepted the job, they could receive 10 times that amount. An adventurer with a vision could potentially earn 100 million mora. And after bearing a child, they could receive another 100 million mora. That kind of money could set someone up for life. It would instantly elevate them into the ranks of the wealthy elite, ensuring the prosperity of future generations. Catherine was left wondering about Yizai's financial resources. Sensing her doubts, Yizai pulled out a bag filled with gems. Each one was a rare treasure worth millions of mora. And there were at least 100 gems in the bag. Ms. Catherine, please issue the commission. This bag of gems will serve as the commission fee. Catherine. A bag of gems. She fell into deep thought. Just how many wives does this man want? Though shocked, Catherine quickly got to work. Soon, Yizai's commission was posted on the board and announced to all the adventurers. Passers-by glanced at it, but when they saw the details, their eyes immediately widened in disbelief. A few moments later, they all exclaimed in unison, 100 million mora. Chapter 5, Mother. Knowledge can truly change fate. Exclamations echoed near the Adventurers Guild, drawing the attention of passers-by. Over a dozen adventurers gathered, looking as astonished as if they had seen a rooster playing basketball and laying eggs afterward. Isn't that Mr. Kamal, the president of the Adventurers Guild? Why does he look so shocked? Is something serious going on? Let me go take a look too. The city's residents couldn't help but gather to read the commission board's contents. In the next moment, there was a collective gasp of wow. Big money for hiring a wife? What? A regular girl from a good family gets a dowry of 5 million mora? My god. 5 million mora. And 5 million more for a baby. A powerful adventurer. 10 million? I'm going. You? They want a powerful adventurer. You're scared of slimes, so forget it. Wait a minute. Scholars get 15 million. Hiss. The golden house in the books is real. Mother, you didn't lie to me. Why are scholars worth more than adventurers? I regret not studying more. So knowledge really can change fate. Ugh, if only I had known earlier, I would have studied hard. Wait. Those with the eyes of God get 10 times the amount. 100 million mora. Oh my god. As they exclaimed, the news spread quickly. One told 10, 10 told 100. In less than 10 minutes, all of Beiyashang Street was buzzing with the news. Even the 30-man regiment of mercenaries patrolling nearby heard about it and immediately went on alert. Hey, go inform the superiors, I'll check the situation. As a mercenary of the 30-man regiment, it was their duty to protect the people of Sumeru. Such an exaggerated offer was likely a new form of scam. Are you kidding me? How could anyone pay that much money? Throughout Sumeru, there are many Mora masters, but you can count them on 10 fingers. However, among these masters, there isn't anyone named Yizai. After asking his colleagues to report to their superiors, Farad quickly made his way to the Adventurers Guild. At this point, the crowd gathered had blocked the streets of Beiyashang Street. Seeing this, Farad immediately stepped forward to disperse the crowd, then approached Catherine and asked, Ms. Catherine, please don't make such jokes. A reward this high has to be some villain's trick. I ask that you. Are you questioning the credibility of the Adventurers Guild? Before Farad could finish his statement, Catherine interrupted his questioning. Catherine frowned slightly, took out the bag of gemstones in public, poured a pile of gems from it, and said, This is the handling fee paid by the gentleman. Farad's mouth immediately formed an O, and the surrounding crowd was also stunned. My god, these gemstones look like ancient treasures. They must be worth a fortune. Master Yizai isn't joking, he's really rich. This commission is real. Indeed, after seeing the proof, the crowd quickly calmed down from their initial shock. If you think about it, it still seems somewhat unreal. After all, who could have such terrifying financial resources? So much money to hire a wife? It's incredible. But now, seeing those rare, gleaming gemstones completely shattered any doubts. It seems to be true. Ms. Catherine, I want to sign up. Me. I'm signing up too. Is it true that girls without special skills can do it? Then I'll join as well. Suddenly, the crowd became lively again, and countless girls lined up to register at the Adventurers Guild. Farad was completely bewildered. He carefully examined several gemstones but couldn't tell if they were real or fake. Yes. I'm sorry, Ms. Catherine, I apologize to the Adventurers Guild. After speaking, Farad fled in embarrassment towards headquarters. This matter now depended on orders from above. The news spread from the lower ranks up, soon reaching the Holy Order on the higher floors. Scholars from various universities also caught wind of it. Did you hear? A master named Yizai came to the city and wants to hire a wife for a huge sum of money. Commoners get 500 W mora. Adventurers get 1000 W mora. PFFT, it's only 5 million. When our mentor applies for a major project, he can get 5 million in funding too. I've seen women with a lot of money, but is this like selling myself? Oh, Master Yizai said the scholar's salary is 1500 W. Eh? Why are you leaving? I'm off to meet the man of my dreams. Wait for me. Seeing her friend rush off, the girl rolled her eyes helplessly, then hurriedly followed. It wasn't just ordinary scholars, even mentors were moved. No wonder all my students have left. Hey, if I weren't afraid of being mocked by my students, I'd want to go too. That's right, the funds issued by the Holy Order aren't enough to sustain my research projects. With this money, I could buy proper equipment. No, for the sake of research, I'll try my luck. I hope Master Yizai likes me. More and more scholars and mentors heard the news and were deeply tempted. In the quiet classroom courtyard, the sound of footsteps suddenly echoed. In the next moment, the gates of the Holy Order's Academy opened, and a large group of scholars rushed out, heading straight for the Adventurers Guild. Chapter 6, The Great Sage, Khaenri'ah's Legacy. It's all mine. In the depths of the Sacred Order, on the top floor of the Palace of Wisdom. The instructor quickly reported the situation to the Great Sage Azar. You mean he claims to be a Garian? There was a trace of surprise in Azar's eyes. As the smartest human in Sumeru, he certainly knew the full history of Khaenri'ah. Seeing the instructor nod, Azar scoffed. No wonder such a grand gesture was made, it's truly interesting. Sage Master, I remember Khaenri'ah. That's right. With a slight disdain on his face, Azar smiled and said, it's just a race cursed by Celestia, and now it can only struggle like ants. Those with the blood of Khaenri'ah are cursed with immortality and will eventually become hollow shells without memory. Even if they wish to die, they cannot. It is even more impossible for them to continue their lineage because all their descendants will become abyssal monsters. I presume this Yizai's purpose is to continue the lineage. Hearing these words, the commander's expression became grim, and he said deeply, Sage Master, if we leave this unchecked, the monsters born of these women will likely endanger Sumeru. I think we should take action to stop this Yizai from remaining in Sumeru. Azar didn't think so and waved with a smile. A group of 30 monsters is more than enough to handle this. I'd like to see the terrified expressions of those greedy women when they give birth to monsters. It must be quite amusing. Wait. I suddenly thought of a more interesting proposal. Azar didn't care at first, but suddenly his eyes lit up, and a playful look appeared on his face. Use the void system to tell all the people about Khaenri'ah. Seeing Azar suddenly change his mind, the commander was very confused. My lord, announcing this news will surely make many women give up. But there will still be many who will take the risk for Mora, right? Exactly what I want. Azar smiled and said, if a woman gives birth to a monster child, we can rightfully arrest Yizai and seize his property. At that time, all his money will belong to the Academy. Such an extravagant reward must have used the legacy of the kingdom of Khaenri'ah. Although I don't know this Yizai's true identity, if we can uncover the whereabouts of that inheritance. That's the legacy of the entire kingdom of Khaenri'ah. Before even finishing his sentence, Hazard's face was already filled with greed. The instructor beside him couldn't help but marvel, his eyes full of avarice, as expected of a sage. I will handle this right away. Bayashang Street. There was a long line at the entrance to the Adventurers Guild, and countless Sumeru girls had came to accept the commission. This scene made many men wear expressions of pain. Because they saw that their beloved had also joined the line. That feeling was almost like wearing a green hat. Just as countless men were heartbroken, a message came from the void system to everyone. To all the people of Sumeru, the one who offered a large sum for a wife is a survivor of Khaenri'ah from 500 years ago. Marrying the remnants of Khaenri'ah will cause their descendants to degenerate into monsters. The survivors of Khaenri'ah were cursed with immortality and are likely over 500 years old, their bodies decaying and their minds insane. Let everyone be informed. The message spread through everyone's minds, and all of Sumeru fell silent for a moment. The women in line were also shocked on the spot. What? The baby will be a monster? Oh my god. That's terrible. Even if I get these Mara, do I want to see a monster come out of my stomach? No, I don't want that. No mother in the world can accept seeing her child turn into a monster. There was an uproar everywhere. What if you don't have children? As long as you get the dowry, it's not impossible. Didn't you see the Void's warning? This person has lived for more than 500 years, he's probably a crazy old man. Exactly, he's old and rotting. I'd rather die than give myself to someone like that for the first time. Money isn't easy to come by, forget it, I'm not going. I don't want it either, Ms. Catherine, please cancel the commission for me. Those who had accepted the commission rushed to the Adventurers Guild's door, not giving Catherine a chance to explain. Catherine had seen Yi Zai with her own eyes. Where's this crazy old man? He is clearly an extraordinary man in his prime, with both an outstanding appearance and temperament, bearing the air of someone superior. However, no matter what Catherine explained, these women could no longer listen. They couldn't trust the words of the Adventurers Guild. After all, no one wanted to gamble with their own bodies. Meanwhile, Yi Zai, who was at home, naturally also received the news from the void. This incident did not exceed his expectations. On the contrary, everything proceeded as he had foreseen. This is Sumeru. In other countries, ordinary people might not know the past of Khaenri'ah, but Sumeru is different. There are likely many scholars studying the history of Khaenri'ah. Moreover, with an advanced void system, as long as one person knows, soon everyone will know. So Yi Zai was already prepared for this, otherwise, he wouldn't have made such a commotion and gone directly to the Adventurers Guild to issue commissions. Now that the void system had directly broadcast this matter, it indicated that the great sage Azar had intervened. The fact that he didn't send a group of 30 people to stop this but only issued a verbal warning showed that Azar was already eyeing Khaenri'ah's legacy. In this case, the fish would bite the bait. The great sage Azar was now on the opposite side of him, so in the future, to protect Khaenri'ah, destroying the great sage and taking control of all Sumeru would be reasonable, right? This is legitimate defense. As for the commission of paying large sums to hire a wife, Yi Zai was in no rush. Think about it, if it weren't for Azar's warning, how many Sumeru girls would have taken up the commission? Those women, like wolves and tigers, would have come immediately. Men? Even elephants couldn't handle that. What's the point of being squeezed out every minute? The first emperor didn't start his business only to be worn out midway, did he? With fewer people now accepting commissions, he could go calmly to the Adventurers Guild tomorrow to collect the list. Thinking this, Yi Zai cheerfully prepared a pot of vanilla tea. At that exact moment, a girl suddenly called from the door, "Excuse me, is this the residence of Master Yi Zai?" Yi Zai was surprised to hear the words and looked toward the voice. He saw a beautiful girl with skin as white as snow standing at the gate of the courtyard. Judging by her attire, she seemed to be a scholar. This greatly surprised Yi Zai. Strange, didn't I keep the address off the commission? How did she find it? Chapter 7, The Most Beautiful Scholar of Miaolun School, Exia. Exia is back. How long has it been since she returned? TSK, she looks even more beautiful again. She really deserves the title of the #1 beauty of the Miaolun sect. It's a shame, though, that her research topic is so expensive, and without any family background, she really doesn't dare to proceed with it. As the small beauty entered the gates of the Holy Order, the surrounding scholars cast longing glances at her. Exia, also known as Dilly Yaxi of the Miaolun School, is a junior scholar. Her research focuses on the self-regulating organization, Khaenri'ah. To study this topic, she often had to venture into the field to investigate those dangerous self-regulatory agencies. This is no easy feat for a frail woman who couldn't even overpower a chicken. As a result, every time she went out, she needed to hire an adventurer to escort her, which required a lot of more to sustain. Not only does her research demand money for publishing commissions, but even investigating the self-regulating agencies involves hefty expenses. And today, she had finally exhausted all her family's savings. Her parents had no choice but to squeeze out more for her. If there was no more money, her research would have to be suspended. She is the only hope of the family. She is the only one in the family to become a junior scholar. Once she successfully graduates and becomes a Kyosato, official scholar, she'll be able to continue her studies at the Academy of the Holy Order and even have the chance to become a sage in the future. Once she becomes a Habanda, she'll no longer live in such poverty. However, to graduate as a junior scholar, one must complete a dissertation on a specific topic. If the research is halted, the existing information simply won't be enough for her to finish the thesis. Her only option now was to ask her supervisor for research funding. But getting funds from the tutor who had harassed students before might not be easy. Exia reached the door of her tutor's research room and knocked lightly. A greasy voice came from inside, "Come in." Taking a deep breath, Exia forced a cheerful smile and opened the door. Behind the desk sat a fat old man. He was almost bald, with a thin mustache on his lip, giving him a sly appearance. "Mr. Karate, I'm back." "Ah, isn't it Exia?" Karate, who had been slouched in his chair, suddenly perked up, a grin spreading across his chubby cheeks. Come, sit down. How's your thesis coming along? Seeing Karate approach with his belly sticking out, Kusagakure instinctively shrank back, forcing a smile as she said, Mentor, I've encountered some difficulties in my research and would like to request some research funding. Ah, I see. Karate noticed Kusage's discomfort, a flicker of dissatisfaction crossing his eyes, but he quickly masked it. Feigning embarrassment, he said, Kusagakure, it hasn't been easy to approve funding requests from the Holy Order recently. However, it's not entirely impossible. Professor, please help me. I'm just a bit of information away from finishing the thesis. Karate twirled his mustache and rubbed it, his eyes lingering on Kusage's snow-white neck. Kusagakure, you may have heard that it's been 3 years since I last took a concubine. You are a beautiful, intelligent, and sensible woman, and I admire you greatly. Mr. Karate. Kusagakure clenched the hem of her clothes with both hands, cutting off Karate's words. Right now, I'm only focused on academic matters and have no interest in discussing marriage. Ha ha ha. Karate wasn't in a hurry, laughing as he said, Kusagakure, you're a smart girl, you should think about it more. No matter how well written your thesis is, I will ultimately have to approve it. Do you understand? You. Kusage's face turned pale, her eyes trembling. She knew her life might be over. Junior scholars must have their theses approved, or they won't be able to continue their studies at the Holy Order Academy. In other words, her academic career would be entirely over. Everything her family had invested in her would be lost forever. Kusagakure, I'm not in a rush. You can think it over carefully. As long as you agree, even if the work you submit is garbage, I'll let it pass. Karate casually stood up, returned to the recliner behind the desk, and calmly sipped his tea. He knew Kusagakure was born into poverty and that her family had exhausted all resources to support her studies. According to his investigation, Kusage's household had likely been completely drained by now. In other words, there was no retreat for her, her only way forward was to continue studying. So Kusagakure would definitely agree. Oh? Want to go back and think about it? Don't worry, I'm in no rush. Tomorrow. Give me your answer by tomorrow, or your thesis. Seeing Kusagake's sudden silence as she walked toward the door without a word, Karate didn't care. Kusagake left the academic building in a daze, her mind filled with Karate's disgusting expression. She couldn't help but start thinking about those painful images. Is it really for academic purposes? Just as Kusagake was losing hope, a message suddenly popped up on her void terminal. Announcement to all people of Sumeru, huge reward for hiring a wife. A notification appeared, immediately catching Kusagake's attention. A huge reward for hiring a wife? People from Khaenri'ah? Kusagake seemed confused, and just as she was about to ask someone, she saw a familiar face. Her friend, also a scholar. But at the moment, she seemed to be grumbling about something. Kusagake quickly stepped forward to ask. Huh? You don't know? A carrion named Yizai issued a commission at the Adventurers Guild. That master is incredibly rich, and the scholar's salary is 15 million. Plus another 15 million after giving birth. Too bad he's a carrion. After hearing what her friend said, Kusagake was shocked by the words, 1500 W Mora. 1500 W. The funds she needed now were only 500,000. Instead of giving that vile Karate anything in exchange for 500,000, why not trade it for 15 million? With that money, she wouldn't run out of funds when she sought promotion to Habanda in the future. And besides, the man is from Khaenri'ah. Perhaps she could gain valuable academic knowledge. Thinking about this, Kusagake made her decision, I'm going to find Master Yizai. Kusagake, are you crazy? Her friend seemed shocked. Didn't you hear the Void's announcement? The child born will turn into a monster. And the other party is an old monster over 500 years old. Kusagake ignored her friend's warning and walked straight out of the gates of the Holy Order. Chapter 8, Kusagake becomes a member of Khaenri'ah family courtyard. Excuse me, is this the residence of Master Yizai? Hearing the question from outside, Yizai was puzzled. Could it be an official from the Sacred Order? After all, the Yi family courtyard had just been built, so maybe there were still some formalities to follow. Yizai stepped out and said, I am Yizai. How may I help you? You. Your Master Yizai? Kusagake looked up, staring at the muscular man in front of her, who was half a head taller than her. She even forgot to breathe for a moment. It was the first time she had seen a man more handsome than the scribe Al-Haytham. In the Sacred Order, Al-Haytham was the object of admiration for countless female scholars. But Al-Haytham was so distant and unapproachable that it broke many hearts, including Kusagake's. She used to fantasize that if she ever married, it would be to someone like Al-Haytham. But the moment she saw Yizai, she realized her fantasy had changed. The man standing before her was several times more attractive than Al-Haytham. She could feel an air of superiority emanating from Yizai, an aristocratic demeanor that was clearly different from ordinary people. Most importantly, Yizai had an approachable aura, unlike the cold distance she felt from others. If she were to give a score, it would be 100 points. Yes, I'm Yizai. Lose. Lose. Lose? Seeing Ixia staring blankly, wide-eyed, Yizai waved a hand in front of her. Oh. But. Didn't they say that Master Yizai is an old monster who has lived for over 500 years? Uxia's face was full of surprise, but she had already confirmed Yizai's identity. Because of the starry eyes, unique to the people of Khaenri'ah. It was simply astonishing. But she still couldn't help but be shocked because the Yizai standing before her was nothing like the mad old man she had heard about. Suddenly, Ixia snapped back to reality. Calling him an old monster in front of him was outrageous. She hurriedly apologized. I'm sorry, Master Yizai. I didn't expect you to be so young. You must have experienced many years. But your body is so well maintained, how did you do it? Uxia not only enjoyed studying the self-regulating mechanisms of Khaenri'ah but also dabbled in research on the longevity of the people of Khaenri'ah. Seeing a living Khaenri'ah right in front of her, her academic curiosity was instantly sparked. Yizai sighed and began to speak eloquently. I condensed my blood with the snow water from Mondstadt's snowy mountain, replaced my bones with the river stones of Lu, and reforged my body with the fruits of Sumeru's forest. Wow, Uxia's eyes widened, filled with little stars. Is that true? False. Ixia. She had thought she had a new research topic, but Yizai's response immediately deflated her enthusiasm. However, she couldn't help but laugh, lowering her head and murmuring, I hate that. All right, come inside. Yizai stepped aside, letting Ixia into the courtyard. The stark contrast between her expectations and reality had greatly improved Ixia's mood. She had thought Yizai was an old monster but found out he was a handsome young man. The emotional ups and downs were difficult to control. When they reached the main hall, Ixia was taken aback by the grandeur of the place. Coming from a humble background, she was shocked to see such a mansion. But she quickly composed herself, bowed to Yizai, and introduced herself. Master Yizai, my name is Ixia, and I am a junior scholar from the Mialan School of the Sacred Order. I heard about the commission from the Adventurers Guild and found my way here. Could you give me a chance? Ixia silently prayed that Yizai would accept her request. Now, she only hoped Yizai would take a liking to her. After all, that scoundrel Karate couldn't compare to Yizai. If Yizai didn't accept her, she'd have to return to the Sacred Order and submit to that awful mentor. If it came to that, she'd rather die. Yizai was different. If it weren't for the need for Mora to fund her academic research, she'd willingly follow Yizai without asking for any Mora. Yizai was young, handsome, and funny. What woman wouldn't say yes? After hearing Ixia's words, Yizai couldn't help but be curious. I didn't put the address on the commission. How did you find it? That was simple. Ixia explained. You're a stranger here and needed a foothold when you came to Sumeru City. I went to the inns in the city and found that you hadn't booked a room, which meant you must have bought a property in Sumeru. Considering your wealth, it had to be a large residence, and there aren't many new courtyards in the city. All I had to do was ask around. Yizai nodded. Ixia, you're very clever and beautiful. But aren't you concerned about the void announcement? Ixia shook her head. I'm a scholar, and I'm here to study the habits of the Khaenri'ahs and why their descendants turn into monsters. Perhaps this will provide valuable research material for my future work on Hiban too. This answer made Yizai frown. She was treating his offspring like research subjects. Scholars, when absorbed in research, really did become lunatics. But Yizai didn't mind. Ixia, I accept you as a member of Khaenri'ah. This is your dowry. With a wave of Yizai's hand, several heavy bags of Mora appeared on the mahogany coffee table. Ixia's eyes widened immediately at the sight. She had completely forgotten where the Mora had come from, all her attention was fixed on the bags in front of her. 15 million Mora. This was the first time in her life she had seen so much money. That night, after bathing, Ixia meticulously cleaned every inch of her body. Timidly, she opened the door to the bedroom and slipped under the covers. Master, I want to investigate the habits of the Khaenri'ahs. Ask. Do you need to sleep? Yes. When you eat Don peaches, do you eat the pit? No. Do you have any special abilities, like breathing underwater? Ixia, the people of Khaenri'ah are still human. Oh. So, Master, your body really has been around for 500 years? Is it really as strong as it looks? Ixia, I'll give you a chance, you can find out for yourself. Chapter 9, Ixia actually obtained the vision. Late at night. Ixia curled up in a corner, like a ball of a kitten. Master, I trust you. You have the snow water from the snowy mountains, the stone rivers of Lu, and the fruit of Dao Qinglan within you. You're not some old monster. At that moment, Ixia wanted nothing more than to remove her void terminal and never use it again. The announcements inside didn't tell the truth. What kind of old monster, living for 500 years, could still be so crazy? This was even scarier than a young man with an eternal youth curse. Seeing Ixia's reaction, Yizai laughed. He could feel that his body, modified by the system, was very powerful. When he first crossed over, his body was indescribably exhausted, with loose skin and weak muscles. But after a systematic reconstruction, not a single part of his body was the same as before. It was like a complete rebirth. While Yizai was marveling at his transformation, a crisp sound echoed in his mind. Ding! Mission opening branches completed, physical strength plus 10, congratulations on obtaining the adaptability of the electro element plus 17, gain superpower, electromagnetic weapon, obtain 10 controllable ruin guards. A series of rewards left Yizai momentarily stunned. However, the continuous sensation of power coursing through his body was unmistakable. He could clearly feel his body growing stronger, although despite the great improvements, he still needed to find something to practice on. Aside from that, the other abilities were incredible. He actually mastered the power of the electro element. In the world of Tvat, only when someone's desire is strong enough to attract the attention of the gods can they be granted a vision. A vision is a magical external organ that grants elemental power. Now, he had somehow gained the adaptability to use electro power out of nowhere. And it seemed that the elemental power could flow without the intervention of any god. The most absurd thing, however, was the final ability. Superpower, electromagnetic cannon. Yizai was speechless. Electromagnetic weapon, uses the principle of electromagnetic induction to launch Mora at 3 times the speed of sound. Extreme precision, the system's explanation was exactly like the Sister Pao weapon. Yizai didn't even bother to complain. People called her Sister Pao, so should he be called Brother Pao? Though a bit ridiculous, in a certain sense, he really was Brother Pao now. In any case, he would test these abilities when the opportunity arose. Beyond all these abilities, the 10 ruin guards that came as rewards were particularly useful. 10 ruin guards would be a formidable force in any situation. After summarizing the system's rewards, Yizai was quite satisfied. Ixia, get some rest. Ah. Yes, master. Ixia lay down, resting her head on a pillow, and looked at Yizai's silhouette against the moonlight shining through the window. She couldn't believe that the same person who said she wasn't thinking about marriage during the day was now lying beside Yizai at night. She didn't feel like she had lost anything. In fact, she felt like she had gained a lot. Not long ago, before her adult birthday, she thought she might end up becoming a lonely and bitter scholar in the future. Unexpectedly, shortly after her birthday, she found her other half. Now, with so much money at her disposal, she could return some of it to her parents and use the rest for research. If possible, she would use part of it to bribe the disciplinary official to remove Khaenri'ah from power. The remaining money would be used to hire adventurers from the Adventurers Guild when she needed to conduct field research. As Ixia thought about all this, her eyelids grew heavier. After expending so much energy earlier, as soon as she relaxed, sleep overtook her completely. The night passed uneventfully, and time flew by. In the early morning, golden sunlight filled the courtyard. Yizai felt his body tremble slightly and slowly woke up. Master! Master! Wake up! What's going on? Hearing Ixia calling out, Yizai sat up slowly. Ixia, what is it? Master! I've really obtained a vision. Huh? Yizai woke up with a start. He looked closely and saw a large, glowing orb next to Ixia. It was a vision of the Dendro element. Ding! Branch Ixia has obtained the Dendro elemental vision, reward distribution complete. Please proceed with the follow-up task Scattered Leaf. Upon hearing the system's notification, Yizai recalled. The system had mentioned before that not only would he be rewarded, but his partner would as well. He looked at Ixia and noticed that the girl seemed possessed, chattering non-stop. The King of Trees must have noticed me, it's the protection of the Lord of Trees. Yizai sighed. The King of Trees? Really? The Tree King was still busy mending the world tree, how could he possibly have the energy to watch over this girl? He already had a good sense of the current timeline. The little grass Archon was still trapped in Jingshan Palace, and everything seemed normal before the main story began. He rubbed Ixia's head and teased, actually, I gave you the vision, so you should keep it a secret. Oh, Master, you're bragging. The people of Khaenri'ah don't believe in gods, I know. A smile spread across Ixia's face. This morning felt refreshing and happy. With a vision, she could protect herself. Even if she ventured into dangerous forests or dead zones, she now had the strength to fight. That meant no more need to hire adventurers, and certainly no more dealings with that corrupt instructor at the Sacred Order Academy. I'll teach that scoundrel karate a lesson. Yizai had heard about Uchiha's situation the previous night, but he hadn't expected the Sacred Order to harbor such a despicable figure. What was even more outrageous was the corruption of the disciplinary officers. He had originally planned to help Uchiha today, but it seemed there was no need. Uchiha could handle this on her own. He, meanwhile, would head to the Adventurers Guild to see who had accepted the commission. As the saying goes, life is endless, and so is training. After breakfast, Uchiha headed out, full of determination. Sacred Order. Look. It's Uchiha. Strange, don't you think she looks even more beautiful today than she did yesterday? Yeah. Her skin is fairer, and her complexion looks so vibrant. That's really odd. What did she do yesterday? A group of male scholars immediately noticed the changes in Uchiha's appearance and began whispering among themselves. Uchiha headed straight to Karate's office. This time, she didn't knock, she simply pushed the door open and walked in. Karate, who had been dozing inside, was startled. But the moment he saw Uchiha, his anger dissipated. Oh, it's Uchiha? So? Did you think things over all night and come to a conclusion? A sly grin spread across Karate's face as his lecherous eyes roamed over Uchiha's figure. He already considered Uchiha as his. But before he could finish speaking, the room was suddenly filled with thorns that extended endlessly. In the next moment, a terrified scream echoed from the room. Chapter 10, Dihaya, with the eyes of God, will my magic scale disease be cured? Sumeru is a nation of wisdom, and the position of the Sacred Order Academy holds great importance. So, when something happened at the Sacred Order, it immediately garnered unmatched attention. Upon hearing Kalati's screams, a group of 30 people rushed to the scene. Scholars nearby also hurried over upon hearing the commotion. Someone dares to cause trouble in the academy. What's going on? They must have a death wish. It seems to be Instructor Karate's research room. Karate? I think I just saw Uchiha go in. Uchiha. The group of 30 heard the discussions around them and kicked open a door. The scene inside left everyone speechless. They saw Karate's fat, pig-like body entangled by countless thorns, hanging upside down in the air. The thorns pierced his fleshy body, causing deep, bleeding wounds. Meanwhile, Uchiha stood silently and immaculately beside him. Guard. I want to file a report. Karate threatened to reject my thesis. He tried to force me to become his concubine, or else he would fail my thesis. At this statement, the surrounding scholars erupted in anger. What? Karate, like a banda, actually did something so disgraceful. Scum. A parasite of the Sacred Order. My God, if a young scholar fails their thesis, they can no longer be a scholar. I heard Karate's work methods were shady, but I never imagined it was this bad. I knew it. His 5 or 6 previous concubines probably married him through dirty means. I told you, Karate is in his 50s, ugly and fat, how could young female scholars be interested in him? Hearing the discussions around them, the corners of the mercenaries' mouths from the 30th Regiment twitched. The Sacred Order couldn't endure such a scandal. The leader discreetly signaled his comrade next to him. The latter hurriedly leaned against the research room door, blocking the view of the scholars outside. Miss Uchiha, I believe there's been some misunderstanding. A misunderstanding? Uchiha revealed her god's eye. You're not trying to cover this up, are you? God. A god's eye? Seeing the green orb in Uchiha's hand, everyone's pupil shrank. Whether in Sumeru or any country in that, once someone possesses a god's eye, their status immediately rises to a frightening level. What right do ordinary people have? This world is that realistic. Looking across all of Sumeru, how many people have a god's eye? There might be only 20 or 30 people in total. Therefore, every person who possesses a god's eye is 1 in a million. The scholars watching from outside were all astonished. Uchiha has a god's eye? It's actually a grass attribute god's eye. A favor from Lord King. It looks like Uchiha will become an important figure in the academy in the future. But that's impossible. She didn't have it yesterday. What? You mean Uchiha got the god's eye last night? All the spectators cast eager glances at Uchiha. Who wouldn't want a god's eye? With a god's eye, you immediately become a person valued by Sumeru's high management. Uchiha. A girl emerged from the crowd. It was the friend Uchiha had met yesterday. You have a god's eye? Did the Carians give it to you? No. Only the gods can give people god's eyes. But why? Upon hearing the girl speak to herself, the surrounding scholars immediately grew excited. What? Uchiha's god's eye is because of that Carian? Could it be that if you become a Carian's concubine, you'll have a chance to get a god's eye? I want a god's eye too. Wait a minute. You're all scholars of the Sacred Order, you can't jump to conclusions like ordinary people. We must be rational. If you think about it, it's absolutely impossible. The power to grant humans God's eyes comes from the gods. The people of Khaenri'ah couldn't possibly have them. It must be a coincidence. Carians don't even believe in gods. But what if? That one phrase left all the debating scholars silent. Yes. What if? This is a god's eye. Obtaining it could change your fate instantly. Even though the hope is small, what if? Even though all of them are scholars devoted to facts, who can remain calm upon hearing about a god's eye? Be rational? Don't be ridiculous. At that moment, the mercenaries of the 30th Regiment were in a bind. Miss Uchiha, I understand. We will give you an explanation for this matter. In short, cut Karate down first, or he'll die. With a wave of Uchiha's small hand, the thorn slowly retreated back into her god's eye. Karate's pitiful state at that moment was unforgettable for everyone. Uchiha, did you really marry that old monster from Khaenri'ah? Her friend seemed worried but couldn't hide the disgust in her eyes when she mentioned the old monster. Uchiha didn't explain. She wasn't ready to reveal that Yuzai was actually quite handsome just yet. Seeing Uchiha remain silent, her friend thought Uchiha didn't want to recall that painful memory, so she comforted her. It's all over now, Uchiha. The story of karate spread quickly through the city of Sumeru. A girl became the wife of a Carian and, in doing so, obtained a god's eye. That rumor spread like a web, weaving its way through every street and alley in Sumeru. Have you heard? If you're chosen by Master Yuzai, you can get a god's eye. SHH. Don't talk nonsense, or the great sage will hear you. I think it's just a coincidence. Maybe that old monster was so disgusting that the girl was blinded by the gods. I heard the girl was the most beautiful in the Miaolun school, and she just came of age. TSK, what a pity. Nearby the group discussing, a girl hid in a corner, eavesdropping. Just as she focused, a voice suddenly came from behind her, startling her. Miss, why did you sneak out again? Dunyarzad was terrified, clutching her chest and gasping for air. Her health was very poor due to the erosion of the devil's scale disease, and even a slight shock left her breathless. Lost? Dihaya was flustered for a moment and quickly supported Dunyarzad's shoulder. Sorry, I didn't mean it. It's all right. Dihaya. Dunyarzad took a deep breath and calmed down. You found me again. Miss, please come back with me. The master and madam are very worried about you sneaking out for so long. After hearing Dihaya's words, Dunyarzad shook her head. Dihaya, did you hear? Just now, everyone was talking about Carians. I heard that a girl who married a Carian received a god's eye. Dihaya, with a god's eye, will my magic scale disease be cured? Chapter 11, Dolly's Letter. Very punitive. And also very shameless. Dunyarzad's words startled Dihaya for a moment, and she said seriously, Miss, there is no connection between the Eye of God and your illness. You must never entertain the idea of marrying a Khaenri'ah. With your current state, it would kill you. In truth, Dixia didn't know if the Eye of God would cure the demon scale disease. But she understood very well that Dunyarzad was very weak, and the more she thought about marriage, the harder it was for her to live independently. Not to mention the rumors that the Khaenri'ah was a crazy old monster, just in case. What if I get hurt in that moment? However, Dunyarzad didn't take it seriously and sighed, Dihaya, I feel like I'm getting weaker and weaker. If this continues, my fate won't change. I want to try, even if there's only a glimmer of hope. No. Dixia shook her head resolutely, Miss, at the very least, you should discuss such matters with the master first. I will never allow you to meet the Khaenri'ah. Let's go home first, I'll carry you back. Feeling Dihaya's strength, Dunyarzad hurriedly resisted. She knew that with Dixia's strength, she could easily carry her home. Dihaya. My father spent a lot of money to treat my illness. You know, my illness is incurable. Humei's family will soon go bankrupt if this continues. By then, you might not even be able to pay your commission. Dihaya paused, she wasn't worried about her commission. To be honest, she already considered Dunyarzad a friend and felt very sorry for the poor girl. Dihaya, I don't want to drag my father down. No matter how much money is spent, my illness won't get better. On the other hand, if you marry that Khaenri'ah, you could earn at least 5 million more. I can use that money to compensate my father. That way, my heart will feel better. Stop it. Dihaya lowered her head, feeling her nose ache, but she was truly helpless. Even while being so weak, she still thought about her family. Dunyarzad hadn't done anything wrong. It was a mistake of fate. Why treat herself like a sinner? Dihaya, accept it as if I were jealous of you, a friend who has the eye of God, and suddenly I feel greedy. Take me to meet Master Yuzai. Dihaya took a deep breath and said in a grave tone, Miss, I can take you to see him. However, let's confirm the Eye of God first. If it's just a coincidence, I'll take you home immediately. Dunyarzad nodded. Okay, but where are we going to find him? Leave that to me, I have a way. The highest level of the Holy Order. Palace of Wisdom. The instructor reported the truth about karate to the great sage Azar. At the same time, he also recounted the rumors that had spread in the city of Sumeru. Would you gain the Eye of God if you married a Khaenri'ah? Oh, as a citizen of the Land of Wisdom, it's truly shameful to spread such absurd rumors. Azar's eyes were filled with disdain, and he speculated, I think it's pity for the little grass king. I'll go to Jingshan Palace to check if there's something wrong with the King's Yaku's guard work. They say it's guard work, but in reality, it's a prison and a guard. He wondered if something was wrong with the guard work that allowed the little auspicious grass king to escape. That's why the girl Ixia has the Eye of God. Sage Master, how to deal with the karate issue. Get rid of his position and hand him over to the disciplinary officer for severe punishment. Azar scoffed coldly. He has really stigmatized the Holy Order. He is unforgivable. For scholars, research is the most important thing. Hazard does not tolerate a scoundrel like karate. That is the dignity of being an academic. Yes. The instructor received the order and turned to leave, but Azar stopped him. Don't forget to send someone to keep an eye on that Ixia. When she has the evil seed of Khaenri'ah in her stomach, we'll be one step closer to the day we swallow the legacy of Khaenri'ah. I want Ixia to see her dead child with her own eyes and regret being deceived by the money of the Khaenri'ah. The commander nodded and said, Understood, Mr. Sage. Yi family courtyard. In the room, Yizai prepared herbal tea alone. Ixia said she would return to the village and give Mora to her parents. She also said she hadn't been home for a long time and wanted to spend the night at home and return early the next morning. Yizai acknowledged her stubbornness. He wasn't worried that Ixia would leave. Since last night, Ixia's attitude had clearly changed. One could say a feeling of dependency developed overnight, and he became smaller and smaller. Moreover, last night was the first experience, after all, and Ixia couldn't endure the problem. He brought the list from the Adventurers Guild. As expected, there weren't many people on the list. There were girls from the village outside the city and some well-known adventurers in the city. What amused him was that, besides a few scholars at the Holy Order Academy, there were actually several daughters of sages. The list was clearly planned by Catherine. A woman from a good family, a powerful adventurer, an intelligent scholar, and the owner of the Eye of God. Yizai looked directly at the last column, thinking that no one had accepted the commission, but unexpectedly found a name. Dori Senga Mihabai, Dori? The figure of that opportunist instantly flashed in his mind. That stinky brat is a well-known businessman in Sumeru, known as Master Sang Mehabai. Yizai didn't expect that Dori would accept the commission for such a small amount of mora. Huh? He lowered his head and saw an envelope that had fallen from the list. Upon picking it up, he discovered that the sender was Dori. Dear Master Yizai, my name is Dori Senga Mihabai, and I'm very excited to hear about your order. Compared to what you heard about my name, I'm a well-known businessman in Sumeru. I'm very willing to marry into a rich family, but my age is still a bit short. If Master Yizai is willing, I will definitely become Master Yizai's property in 2 years, so, can you give me the bright mora in advance? As you can see, I have a divine eye of the thunder element, plus, I'm also an excellent adventurer. Of course, in terms of business, I'm also a great scholar, so, my bride price can be 250 million mora, which is reasonable, right? I can also introduce other extraordinary women. Marrying me is definitely worth the money. If possible, please call me Bright Mara, Dori Senga Mihabai. After reading the contents of the letter, Yizai felt embarrassed. Good boy, there's even an advance payment for the bride price? She also said she was an adventurer and a scholar, then raised the price to 250 million. Bug stuck here. With Dori's personality, she would refuse to accept the money as soon as she received it. In short, what this letter wants to express is, I want a white wolf with empty gloves, give me money. Of course, Yizai wouldn't be that stupid, cheating and swindling wouldn't work. At the moment Yizai was complaining about Dori, footsteps suddenly sounded from outside the courtyard. He looked out the window and saw the figures of 2 girls. Chapter 12, Dunyarzad's Request, the Hope to Cure the Magical Scale Disease. Dihaya, is this really Master Yizai's residence? According to my sources, this courtyard is a newly built residence. If Master Yizai comes to Sumeru, this is the most likely place for him to live. Dihaya still believed in her information source. She stepped forward and knocked on the slightly open door of the courtyard, peering inside. Yizai was surprised to hear the sound. Hello. And Dunyarzad? He recalled that Dunyarzad had always been tormented by the demon scale disease, which had already reached an advanced stage, almost killing her multiple times. Dihaya was a mercenary from the Golden Brigade, hired by Dunyarzad's father, Hueco, to be Dunyarzad's bodyguard and ensure her safety. The question is, how did these two end up here? He got up and walked to the courtyard, politely saying, Ms. Dihaya, you both have something you want to take to my humble home? Upon seeing Yizai, Dihaya immediately became alert. Miss. Be careful. This person has trained, and his muscles are very defined. Although Yizai was wearing loose clothing, Dihaya sensed that he had a very strong physique. This was her intuition and experience as a mercenary from the Golden Brigade for many years. The eyes, the steps, and the overall body shape can reveal how dangerous a person is. Judging by her experience, Yizai in front of her was definitely a very dangerous person. She had already started thinking about how to safely take Dunyarzad away. Calm down, Dihaya, we're only here to see Master Yizai. Dunyarzad patted Dihaya's arm and asked, Sir, do you know Dihaya? The lioness with the flaming mane from the Golden Brigade is a bold and beautiful woman, I've heard of you. Upon hearing Yizai's compliment, Dihaya felt a bit embarrassed, cough. I'll take it as you praising me, but don't try to use this method to get closer. As she said this, Dihaya gradually noticed that the man before her seemed very handsome. The first time she saw Yizai, she only noticed his figure. As for his appearance, she really hadn't looked closely. Dunyarzad introduced herself. Hello, I am the daughter of Dihaya's patron, Dunyarzad. I want to meet Master Yizai and discuss the matter of paying a large sum of money to hire a wife. It was a bit difficult for Dunyarzad to talk about this incident, so when she said it, her somewhat pale face flushed red. Dihaya, who was beside her, interrupted, Don't get me wrong, the miss is only here to inquire about the rumors regarding the Eye of God, not to get married. Because of the rumors that Yizai paid a lot of money to hire a wife, Dihaya already had a prejudice in her heart. After all, how could a decent man think of marrying so many wives? Along with the announcement in the empty system, it gave her the impression of Yizai being an old monster, an old pervert. Yizai probably understood after hearing those words. These two people did not know Khaenri'ah, so even if they saw the starry eyes, they wouldn't be able to recognize him as Master Yizai. This piqued his interest a little. You two, come inside and talk. Did Dunyarzad really want to take on the task of paying a lot of money to find a wife? Why would she think like that when she was tormented by demon scales? Yizai was a bit curious. After inviting the two to sit down, Yizai served them tea. Dihaya held back, looking alert, as if she was worried about the tea. Yizai didn't mind but asked a question. Actually, I have had health problems since childhood. I might not have much time. I heard that last night a woman gained an Eye of God because of Master Yizai. I think that, perhaps with the help of the Eye of God, my condition could improve. Dunyarzad spoke softly. Dihaya, beside her, couldn't help but interrupt Dunyarzad. Miss, don't say those words, you still have many days ahead. Having said that, Dihaya looked at Yizai. Friend, can you ask your master about my lady? Was the matter of the Eye of God yesterday a coincidence? If it was a coincidence, we won't bother you. Dihaya. Don't say that. Yizai understood what Dunyarzad meant. For a short life, it's better to take the risk and bet on a 1 in a million possibility. If she receives the Eye of God, she might have a chance to survive. If it were him, he would probably choose to do that, at least it's better than waiting to die. But it's a pity. The Eye of God is not omnipotent, and it cannot cure the demon scale disease. Clay is a chestnut. Yizai couldn't help but feel pity. At that moment, he suddenly heard a reminder sound in his mind. Ding, tip, the system can treat diseases of branch, not to mention the demon scale disease. This news surprised Yizai a little. Unexpectedly, the system really had that means. Seeing Yizai deep in thought, Dunyarzad explained, actually, even if I don't have the Eye of God, I'm willing. As long as there are 5 million moras, I can pay my father and leave without feeling guilty. Lose. Dihaya frowned, but before she could speak, Dunyarzad said softly, Dihaya, if there are still 5 million moras left, please help me get to the Grand Bazaar. There is a lady named Nilu. She is also a believer in the Lord God of Grass and will hold the Flower God's birthday ceremony for the Lord God of Grass. Everyone in the Grand Bazaar supports the Lord God of Grass, but their economy is relatively tight. I hope to do my part for everyone. Dihaya's face changed, and her eyes looked a little confused. Dunyarzad's words clearly meant that she had already made up her mind. These words were like confessing a will. I miss you. I won't let you do this, I'll take you home. Seeing that the two were about to argue, Yizai said, Miss Dunyarzad. First of all, please understand that the commission to hire a wife with a large sum of money is for the expansion of the Khaenri'ah lineage. Based on your physical condition, you do not have the ability to spread your branches and leaves. I'm not a philanthropist, so I'm not obliged to give you 5 million moras as a dowry. As soon as these words came out, Dunyarzad's eyes suddenly lost their light. Is that so? I see. Dunyarzad had lowered her head, feeling profound despair in her heart. Yes. For others, they are not qualified to connect and trust on their own. Her last wish is to get a sum of money before leaving this world. That money could compensate her parents and help everyone in the Grand Bazaar. But now it seems that her previous thoughts were very naive. Her life is worth nothing. Seeing the disheartened look on Dunyarzad, Yizai said again, that said, I really appreciate your kindness. Ms. Dunyarzad, I can cure your demon scale disease. But you have to pay the price. Chapter 13, Dihaya, perhaps Master Yizai is a very kind person. You said you can cure the devil scale disease? Dihaya's face was somewhat incredulous, sporting an expression of shocked no. Dunyarzad suddenly raised her head, the already dim world burst into light of hope once again. That's impossible. Master Hueco invited famous doctors from many countries, but there was nothing they could do. Wait a moment? You said you could cure the young lady? But you, Master Yizai. You. Dihaya felt a bit confused and took a while to react. Seeing her like this, Yizai wanted to laugh and explained, I am Yizai. Eh? You are Master Yizai? Both Dunyarzad and Dihaya were shocked by this statement. Yizai suddenly felt like a giant panda in a zoo, being looked up and down by two girls, which felt a bit strange. But, Master Yizai is not an old monster. Yizai sighed helplessly, it's a rumor made by the people of the Holy Order. As you can see, my body isn't bad. At least, Dihaya, your body may not be as good as mine. What did you say? Dihaya's desire to win was immediately provoked. When Yizai's words reached her ears, it was as if he thought she was just a woman and then looked down on her. In the desert, some colleagues would think that way. But in the end, she was beaten by her iron fist. Seeing Dihaya's hair swaying, Yizai smiled and said, if you're not convinced, you can try for yourself. Okay. Who's afraid of whom? Dihaya was surprised for a moment and instantly understood what Yizai meant by, try it. Her ears turned red immediately, and she angrily said, hey. I said you're really disgusting. Alright, Dihaya. Dunyarzad held Dihaya and looked at Yizai with hope. Master Yizai, what is the price you just mentioned? For her now, it was like grabbing a lifeline. If the devil scale disease continues, her life will come to an end in no time. However, if Yizai can really cure the devil's scale disease, she could accept any cost. She had nothing else to lose, she had nothing left. Give it your all. Yizai extended his fist to support his face and looked directly into the girl's eyes, as if striking at someone's heart. He said again, from now on, you are no longer the young lady of the Hueco family. Your life, your soul, belong to me and are my property. Dunyarzad's pupils trembled, and for some reason, she always felt that Yizai in front of her suddenly exuded a terrifying aura. Just like a superior person, he made people feel that their souls were trembling. Originally, Dihaya wanted to refute. What gives life and soul? After all, Dunyarzad is a person, not an object. Is it necessary for a living person to die after hearing those words? However, when the words left her lips, Dihaya still held back. After all, this might be Dunyarzad's last hope. As long as you obey, Dunyarzad can survive. As a friend, she wishes for Dunyarzad's complete recovery. However, she also didn't want Dunyarzad to become someone else's doll, to be abused and humiliated. All she could do was remember and advise. Miss. This is a deal with the devil. You have to think carefully. Because of this person, you might do some bad things. He's very likely to intimidate you as well. At that time, you won't have a way to regret it. Hearing Dihaya's advice, Dunyarzad's eyes strained. But she still slightly nodded and then said to Yizai, Master Yizai, I am willing to give everything I have. Before she finished speaking, Dunyarzad felt the pressure over Yizai disappear. Dunyarzad, I will give you this chance. Prepare yourself tonight. Moreover, from now on, you are mine. Take better care of yourself. After speaking, Yizai took out several mora bags from his portable space and placed them on the table. That's 5 million moras, and that is your dowry. Dunyarzad was a bit surprised, she hadn't expected Yizai to give her mora. Because Yizai had just said that she didn't have the ability to spread her branches. Logically speaking, if Yizai was willing to treat her disease, she should be doing quite well, and mora shouldn't have any part in it. Seeing Dunyarzad's confusion, Yizai's voice softened quite a bit. You will be cured tonight, and you are a normal girl. So, I won't take a single cent from your dowry. Okay, I still have something to do. You can rest here or go home to prepare. After speaking, Yizai left the cabin. Looking at Yizai's back, Dihaya snorted, this guy is being fair, but if the time is tonight, that son of a gun is really impatient. You say yes, miss. Loser? Dihaya suddenly realized that Dunyarzad was staring blankly at Yizai's back. Dihaya, perhaps. Master Yizai is a very kind person. Dihaya, Chapter 14, pull the curtains and the bed covers into the house, while Dihaya suffers outside. Dunyarzad and Dihaya left the Yi family complex. However, they did not return to the Hueco house. Dunyarzad feared that if she went home, her family would punish her, making it difficult to go out again. She decided that, in that case, she would kill her parents first and then play a trick. Dihaya, please help me keep this Mora safe first. In a hotel, Dunyarzad had a small room. She handed over the 5 million Moras she had just obtained to Dihaya. Miss, why? Dunyarzad smiled slightly and said, Dihaya, I don't know if my disease will be cured. I left the money with you just as a precaution. If I don't return, the money will be used as I said before. You. Dihaya felt a little pain in her nose. Yes. If Yizai had deceived them, Dunyarzad might never return. Seeing Dunyarzad's resolute demeanor, she couldn't say anything more, only teased, Miss, aren't you afraid that I'll run away with this money? Dunyarzad laughed, Dihaya, I know you too well. Since you know me, you know that I will be with you tonight. Dihaya took the bag, cleaned her gauntlet, and said, I'm in the courtyard. If you're in danger, call my name. At that moment, I will rush in through the door. I'll drag the Khaenri'ah out and teach him a lesson. Night. All the vendors on Bayashang Street closed their doors. Now and then, some mercenaries patrolling the 30 regiment passed by the street. Dihaya secretly left the hotel with a dressed-up Dunyarzad. Feeling the night road, they arrived at the door of the Yi family courtyard. So, Dihaya, why are you here? Seeing the two beauties sneaking into his home, Yizai couldn't help but laugh. Like two thieves. Dihaya showed the gauntlet on her arm and alarmingly declared, I will protect the young lady. Yizai, if you dare to hurt her, even just a little, before Dihaya could finish her harsh words, Yizai nodded repeatedly, then I will leave you on guard tonight, go and keep watch. You. Dihaya gritted her teeth for a moment, she really wanted to return to the desert now. It would be better to know some people from the legacy of the God King and let her vent her anger. She promised to defeat those guys everywhere. Yizai took Dunyarzad inside and then locked the door. He didn't want to be spoiled by Dihaya. But to be honest, he quite liked Dihaya's temperament, like that of a very aggressive little cat. Lying on the bed, the nervous breathing of Dunyarzad sounded in his ears. A girl who has suffered from illnesses since childhood doesn't have a normal life and can only stay at home every day. At this moment, it's no wonder that she is feeling nervous. Yizai held the little girl's hand and said calmly, don't be afraid, tonight you will have a new life. Outside. Dihaya sat calmly in the courtyard, surrounded by silence. She could hear a little voice. The sound came from inside the house and made her uncomfortable. That son of a gun. Ha chirp, it's colder than usual tonight. Dihaya secretly cursed in her heart, but she was also praying for her good friend. Yizai didn't press Dunyarzad too much. Tired? Master Yizai. Why? Hearing Yizai's response, a slight smile appeared on Dunyarzad's face. Is it a man's dignity? Dunyarzad, I hope you ask that question again after you recover from your illness. PFFT. The master is kinder than I imagined. Dunyarzad leaned in, feeling very happy. At first, I thought Master Yizai would be scary. Seeing that Yizai didn't speak, Dunyarzad asked again softly, Master, will I get better tomorrow? Yes. It seems that the tense strings of her heart that had been taut since childhood relaxed a bit, and Dunyarzad genuinely wanted to talk more with Yizai. She discovered that she had a different feeling for Yizai in her heart. Sir, are you sure? I'm afraid if I close my eyes now, I won't be able to open them again. Yizai was serious, I am sure, and the sun will be warm tomorrow, go to sleep early. Hearing Yizai's tone, Dunyarzad felt an unprecedented sense of security. She couldn't help but sigh, my choice is correct, I must be guided by the Master God of Grass. That phrase caught Yizai's attention. Little auspicious King of Grass? The Master also knows about the God of Grass? I heard that people in Khaenri'ah don't believe in gods. Dunyarzad was a bit surprised but pleasantly so. She believed in the King of Grass, and when she heard Yizai talking about the King of Grass, she immediately became very excited. Do you mean the guidance of the little King of Grass? Dunyarzad nodded and said softly, although I'm not sure, I feel that the voice is from the Lord God of Grass. It said, Dunyarzad, go find that Khaenri'ah. I stayed at home all the time and never heard of these things about you, so I sneaked out. On the roadside, I learned from those passers-by that it takes a large sum of money to hire a wife. Yizai nodded, I understand. Dunyarzad guessed that this person should be the little auspicious King of Grass. The gods have watched over Dunyarzad since she was a child. Later, during the flower god's birthday festival, it was the God of Grass who saved her life. Yizai was a bit confused. If it is said that Dunyarzad came here under the guidance of the little auspicious King of Grass, it means that the little King of Grass has noticed him. Then why would the Xiaocao King want Dunyarzad to come? Chapter 15, Nahida's Request, the price is to give birth to a new life? As Yizai pondered, an ethereal reminder sounded in his ear. Ding, complete the mission, opening branches. Physical strength plus 17, thunder element strength plus 21, tip, thunder element strength can use the electromagnetic super weapon twice. Spiritual power plus 3, acquiring the calming force ability, 10 acquire controllable ruins guard. The system notification sound faded, and Yizai felt the change in his body again. He could hear the sound of blood flowing through his meridians, growing more powerful with each moment. Today he went outside the city to experiment. If it were a slime, he could smash it to pieces with a punch. As if a watermelon were struck with a stick, it exploded. If it were now, he felt he could turn slime directly into liquid slime. Not only had his strength improved, but the hardness of his body had changed as well. Explosive power, resistance, counterattack ability, and various forces were all greatly enhanced. This feeling was very addictive. Just think about it, you can get stronger every day without going to the gym to lift weights. The system is simply a blessing for lazy people. After feeling the changes in his body, Yizai heard the new attribute values. Mental power plus 3. Although he didn't understand the role of mental power, he could sense that his focus had become sharper. Next, there was the special ability, Forced Calm. Forced Calm, calm emotions like joy, anger, sadness, happiness, etc. The effect will become more significant with the improvement of mental power. Upon hearing the message, Yizai was speechless for a moment. Why did this ability seem so familiar? It seemed that an extremely explicit character had the same ability, right? He didn't know what it was for, but it was better than nothing. As for the guards of the ruins, the last time the reward was 10 units, and this time it was again 10 units. Although the guardian of the ruins was a considerable force, it still wasn't worth mentioning to powerful adventurers. After Dadalia activated the Demon King's armament, it wasn't difficult to destroy a few guards of the ruins. If the relic guard were used to protect a city, that power would still be very weak. After checking all the rewards, Yizai discovered that Dunyarzad had fallen asleep. He wanted to turn over but realized his arm was trapped in an extremely soft embrace, making it impossible for him to escape. Even in deep sleep, Dunyarzad still held his hand tightly. It seemed this girl really had no sense of security, or she was worried that if she closed her eyes, she would never be able to open them again. Forget it, this is fine too. Yizai slowly closed his eyes. Outside, Dihai leaned against the corner, looking at the stars in the sky, shivering. Hot chirp. At some point, Yizai felt a gentle calling. People of Khaenri'ah, please open your eyes, will you? The voice seemed to come from 9 days ago, startling Yizai. To be honest, it felt a bit like deja vu from Journey to the West. If there were a word for evil beast, Yizai would be almost scared to death. He suddenly sat up and realized there was a vast white space around him. It was like dreaming. Are you awake? I am Nahida, and I have been following you for a long time. Suddenly, a resonant voice emerged behind him, extremely clear. Yizai turned his head and saw a small badminton. Well, it was Nahida who had turned her back to him. The back looked very much like a badminton ball. Little auspicious Grass King? You knew I existed? Nahida was a little surprised. She hadn't expected Yizai to recognize her identity just by hearing a name. She turned around, saw the confusion on Yizai's face, and explained, I am here to thank you for helping Dunyarzad. This child has grown up under my watchful eyes. Because of the devil's scale disease, she is very unfortunate. But, as the god of Sumeru, I have no choice. Hearing Nahida's sigh of disappointment, Yizai remembered. At that time, Nahida was imprisoned in the Jingshan Palace by the great sage. Because Nahida still didn't understand the emotions that a god should have, not even anger. One could say she was a confused Nahida. I have been following you since you entered the city. I feel that there are many variables in you, which is why I let Dunyarzad approach you. In this way, I can connect with you. I'm sorry, but I can't appear to see you in person, only through a dream. Upon hearing this, Yizai understood. The reason she guided Dunyarzad was that Nahida had no way to connect with him directly. Wait, you said this is a dream? Yes. To be precise, this is your dream. Nahida thought Yizai would ask a question about Sumerians cannot dream. But before she could explain the issue of the void, she suddenly encountered something very strange before her eyes. It was a Ferrari. That's right. It was imagined by Yizai. If it's your own dream, then everything in the dream can be controlled by you. To travel through the unreachable dreams of the past, of course, you have to live your vision now. Seeing the car before him, Yizai was surprised. This was the first time he could control his dreams. Then he started to fantasize about fighter jets. Soon, a jet dark as pitch number 20 appeared before him. That cool appearance made Yizai exclaim. This is a man's romance. No man doesn't love fighter jets. Nahida, beside him, was stunned. Because she found that she had never seen what Yizai visualized through dreams. Gathering all her wisdom, she couldn't penetrate the mystery. Is this Khaenri'ah technology? No, I don't belong to that. Upon hearing Yizai's response, Nahida was suddenly struck by a bolt of lightning. You are the descendant? Well. Yizai thought something was wrong. Bad, too focused on appreciating what was in front of him, subconsciously revealing his identity. Forced to calm down, when the ability was activated, Yizai immediately felt as if he was drenched with cold water. He calmed down for a moment, dispersed the creations in the dream, and said, as expected of the God of Wisdom, you noticed this very quickly. Nahida suddenly became excited. If he were a descendant, perhaps she could help her. She asked hastily, Descendant, as you can see, my strength is very small. So, I want to ask you to help a group of people from Sumeru. Nahida had a lovely and pitiable appearance. Like an ordinary person, when she heard this request, she was afraid that whatever she did, she would agree. But Yizai did not hesitate. Help a group of people from Sumeru. This request showed that Nahida was really confused. She didn't even know if it was right or wrong to be imprisoned. She didn't complain to the great sage Azar, but just silently observed Sumeru and everyone. Apparently witnessing the corruption of the Order Academy, Nahida felt the danger. However, she only wanted to help the great sage and resolve these problems. In other words, if he promised Nahida, he would be helping the great sage clean up his mess. A ghost would do that. If Nahida's request is to help her out of trouble, well, he might consider it. Thinking of this, Yizai asked back, if you want to use my power, you need to pay a price. God is no exception. So, Nahida, what price are you willing to pay? Upon hearing the question, Nahida thought for a moment and gave an answer. Although I don't know if the gods can combine with humans. However, I will do my best to give birth to a new life. Yizai, Chapter 16, Reject the youthful aesthetics, start with him, this and her. Forcing to calm down, Yizai was surprised by Nahida's response. Punishment. This is too much punishment. The little days had become increasingly judgmental. No need for that, we'll talk about this later. Upon hearing Yizai's words, Nahida looked very confused, innocence written all over her face. The more Nahida behaved like this, the more tormented Yizai became. Cut. Reject the youthful aesthetics, start with him, this and her. Nahida, the price you will pay will be all of Sumeru. Setting aside distracting thoughts, Yizai presented the conditions seriously. Your power, and the power of Sumeru will belong to me. I won't interfere in Sumeru's affairs. But when I need it, Sumeru will rise. Yizai's condition made Nahida fall into deep thought. She was considering Yizai's position. If Yizai needs the power of Sumeru, it must be to help Khaenri'ah against Celestia. Given the current difficulties, all of Sumeru must be on the opposite side of the heavenly law. It doesn't seem worth it to do so. After all, she believed that Sumeru was not terminally ill. In fact, Yizai's thoughts were not what Nahida speculated. Although he was from Khaenri'ah, he had no sense of belonging to the city. Now, he just wanted to live an ordinary life, strengthen himself step by step, and find freedom and happiness in this world. The reason he wanted to control the power of Sumeru was also precautionary. He wasn't provoking heaven. But if Celestia knew his identity and saw that he had escaped the curse of immortality, would he still remain silent? When the law of heaven came, he would face a great threat. Preventing is preventing, without prejudging waste. To avoid being passive at that moment, he needed to plan ahead and continue accumulating strength. Nahida, I won't accept your request. Eh? Nahida seemed astonished. She really wanted to reject Yizai, but unexpectedly, Yizai anticipated her. Yizai said, not now, but that doesn't mean it won't happen in the future. After you get out of your inferiority complex and confusion. Bring the price you've prepared and ask me again. After speaking, this dream world began to crumble. Nahida's consciousness separated from the dream. What is the reason? Is it such a powerful spiritual force that it can undo the dream by itself? Now that she left the dream space, it meant that Yizai took the initiative to end the dream. This surprised Nahida greatly. Because it is impossible for ordinary people to have this kind of power. Get out of the inferiority complex and confusion? What should a god like me do? She had been locked in the dark world for 500 years. From the moment she was born, from the day she was taken back to the Jingshan Palace by the great sage, she had been dazed in this dark and lonely world. What could she do? Nahida sighed softly and plunged into deep thoughts. Yizai was not in a hurry. In fact, if he really wanted to kill the great sage, It wouldn't be impossible. The great sage Azar must have means to protect himself, so the winning rate in a confrontation wouldn't be high. If he didn't have 100% certainty of success, then Yizai wouldn't do it. Using assassination means, sneaking into the Teaching Order's academy, and firing an electromagnetic cannon at the great sage. After the great sage died, he would go to the Jingshan Palace to free Nahida. That would be easy, but it would also put the Khaenri'ah on the opposite side of Sumeru. He wanted to take care of his image as best as he could, which was very important for publicity. If the great sage took the initiative to harm Khaenri'ah for profit and was defeated by Khaenri'ah, that wouldn't be reasonable, would it? It would be like committing a crime on the street and definitely being called brutal. If you confront thieves and then fight back, this is a legitimate defense of moral superiority. So he was not in a hurry. Instead of chasing stars and moons, it was better to stop and enjoy the fresh breeze and vanilla scent of Sumeru. Early in the morning, the sky turned white like a fish's belly, and the morning light shone far on the horizon. Yizai opened his eyes, and his consciousness gradually became clear. It seemed that after his mental strength improved, his sleep quality had improved. Dunyarzad, on the other hand, was still sound asleep. The warm breath softly sprayed on his shoulders, which itched a little. At that moment, Yizai suddenly discovered that countless black scales had appeared on Dunyarzad's face. It was like a dense black grid, giving people a tingling sensation on their scalp. Ding! The branch, Dunyarzad, has begun to purify. The crisp sound of the impulse fell, and the black scales on Dunyarzad's body began to evaporate instantly. Clouds of black mist evaporated from her face and disappeared into the air. After a while, all the scales disappeared, leaving behind very smooth and delicate skin. As if feeling the disappearance of the disease, Dunyarzad sighed and slowly opened her eyes. When she realized her gaze was on Yizai, 2 red clouds quickly appeared on her face. Old Master. Dunyarzad, how do you feel? Dunyarzad was a bit distracted, never having experienced a morning like this. She opened her eyes to find someone idolizing her, and he was so handsome. When she came to her senses, she realized that Yizai was asking about the magical scale disease. She lifted the thin quilt and stroked the skin where the scales had appeared before, but suddenly found that those damn scales had disappeared. There are none left. They're really gone. Dunyarzad's face immediately filled with surprise. Not only had the scales disappeared, the feeling of depression and helplessness from before was gone. She felt better than ever. Am I ready? She couldn't believe it, it felt like a dream. The disease that had tormented her since childhood was truly cured. Chapter 17, Dunyarzad's Reimbursement, Morning Practice. Dunyarzad stared at her hands, with an incomparably bright smile on her face. From birth until now, she had never been as happy as she was at this moment. The shackles were gone. She was finally free. After more than 10 years of suffering, she had been redeemed. Dunyarzad, you gave everything you had, and I fulfilled my promise. Upon hearing Yizai's words, Dunyarzad snapped back to reality. She must keep in mind that the happiness and joy she was feeling were granted to her by the people around her. Thank you, sir. Dunyarzad threw herself into Yizai's arms, enjoying the warmth and comfort of the moment. But at that moment, she suddenly felt a cold sensation coming from beneath her body. She reached down to touch it and unexpectedly pulled out a large crystalline sphere from behind. God, the Eye of God? Branch, Dunyarzad, obtain the elemental god Eye of Grass. The reward distribution has been completed. Continue to complete the follow-up task, Scattered Leaf. Seeing Dunyarzad holding an Eye of God, an ethereal signal resonated in Yizai's mind. Yizai was a bit surprised. Unexpectedly, the system had cured the demonic scale disease and generously opened the Eye of God. In this way, Dunyarzad's future would definitely change completely. Master. I also gained the Eye of God. Dunyarzad was very happy. Not only had she recovered from a serious illness, but she was also recognized by the Eye of God. That feeling was like being blind for a long time and, at the moment you opened your eyes, seeing the most beautiful scenery and the most colorful flowers in the world. This must be a gift from the Master, right? I heard that the girl who married the Master before also received the Eye of God. It's not a coincidence, is it? Dunyarzad's thoughts comforted Yizai. He didn't respond but slowly stood up and said, go feel the warm sun. He had promised last night that the sun Dunyarzad would see today would be even warmer. However, a small hand held him back. Master. I was the one who apologized to you last night. So, I want to make it up to you. Can I? Dunyarzad's face was filled with red clouds. Hachirp, outside. Dihaya rubbed her arms with her hands. The morning temperature was the same as at night. Only when the sun rose would it be warmer. She had waited outside all night, it had been quiet late into the night, so she closed her eyes and rested for a bit. It was early morning, and she was worried about Dunyarzad. If the magical scale disease wasn't cured, Dunyarzad would likely completely leave this world because of the devastation. But at that moment, Dihaya suddenly heard a voice coming from the room. After listening carefully, she immediately took several steps back, embarrassed. That beast. It actually woke up early in the morning. Just thinking of Dunyarzad's fragile body, Dihaya wanted to rush inside. But as soon as she reached the door, she suddenly realized that Dunyarzad's voice was no longer as delicate as before. There seemed to be power in her voice. Has the lady's condition improved? Dihaya was lost for a moment. I won't go in. She struggled for a long time but still planned to wait until things calmed down before making a decision. However, the voice from inside still made her restless. Finally, the sun fully rose, and the sound finally stopped. After a while, the door opened completely. Khaenri'ah. How is my lady? Before Yizai could respond, a figure rushed out of the room. Dihaya. Dunyarzad hugged Dihaya, a happy smile on her face. I'm cured. All my illnesses are healed. Really? Dihaya's eyes sparkled, and she quickly looked Dunyarzad up and down. It was evident that Dunyarzad's movements were much more dynamic than before. Previously, due to the magical scale disease, Dunyarzad had no strength in her body and walked very slowly. But now, it was as if the huge stone on her body had been removed, and she moved with much more ease. Look, I also gain the Eye of God. Dunyarzad could hardly wait to share her joy with her good friend and extended her own green elemental Eye of God. This time, Dihaya was completely stunned. It had only been one night. Not only had she cured the magical scale disease, but she had also given Dunyarzad the Eye of God. Yesterday's rumors said that a girl received the Eye of God because of a Khaenri'ah. If this was a rumor, how could the current situation be explained? The Eye of God was nothing more than a vital treasure that could change a person's destiny. If you want to receive the Eye of God, you must be observed and recognized by the gods. The first time was a coincidence, the second time was absolutely impossible. Can the Khaenri'ah people really awaken ordinary people to the Eye of God? Yizai was terrified when Dihaya looked at him and couldn't help but ask, why are you looking at me like that? What? Do you want to try too? Under normal circumstances, Dihaya would definitely go crazy when provoked like this. But this time, she didn't toss her hair but asked very seriously, if people knew that you could give ordinary people the eyes of God, wouldn't all the girls in the world be willing to be your women? Then I'd keep all the accounts. You pervert. Upon hearing Yizai's cheeky response, Dihaya was left speechless. Yizai smiled and pulled the woman into Dihaya's arms. Dunyarzad, there's one thing I want you to do. Eh? Dunyarzad was surprised by Yizai's actions. What to do? You don't want the lady to do something bad, do you? Donate this mora to the Great Bazaar in my name. As he said this, Yizai pulled out several bags of money from his portable space, which looked to be about 10 million mora. As soon as these words were said, both girls were shocked. Donate money. Chapter 18, Danzō, there is no cure for Khaenri'ah's disease. Dihaya was surprised to learn that Yizai would donate money to the Great Bazaar. When those words left Yizai's mouth, the image of pervert in her mind shattered instantly. Do you really want to donate money? Yizai nodded. He had decided on this matter yesterday as well. He wanted to establish a decent image for himself so that the people of Sumeru would recognize, Master Yizai is a good man. The best way to promote this tag was by donating money. 1,000 W mora wasn't painful for him, but it could win many hearts immediately. Especially the vendors at the Great Bazaar and the people at the theater. They needed more money to prepare for the Flower God's anniversary festival. If I had the support of a master during the hardest time, of course, I would be grateful. But sir. Why? Dunyarzad was very intrigued. If the master is understanding, you don't need to worry. Because I will fund the Great Bazaar with my own money. I don't want my master to pay so much for me. That's right. Yizai thought for a moment, looked into Dunyarzad's beautiful eyes, and said seriously, just treat this as a favor I gave you. You. Dunyarzad felt her heart instantly washed by warm honey, and Yizai's gaze hit her soul directly, making her legs and feet go weak. She couldn't help but stand on her tiptoes and kiss Yizai's cheek. Thank you, master. I will definitely convey Master Yizai's heart to everyone. This was the first time she felt the sensation of being spoiled. Dihaya hadn't expected Yizai to say this, and her feelings toward him changed drastically. How I feel. You two are so naughty. Oh dear. Dihaya rubbed her arms with her hands, seeming cold. Puchy. Dunyarzad blushed and was filled with embarrassment. Master Yizai, I want to go home first and tell my parents the good news. Then take Mora to the Great Bazaar. Nilu and the others will be very happy. Yizai fulfilled her request. Seeing the young woman with a happy face, Dihaya also felt joy. I had a prejudice against you before, I'm sorry. I am a daughter of the desert, and I don't want to be hated by others if I make a mistake. If you're unhappy, you can hit me, we're friends. Dihaya was a very straightforward person. Due to the earlier announcement from the empty terminal and her preconceived negative impression of Yizai, her attitude hadn't been very friendly. But if you make a mistake, you have to admit it, and when you are defeated, you have to stand at attention. She wouldn't complain at all. Yizai said with a playful smile, how could it be? Last night I had to work hard for the flaming main lion to keep watch for me. I think I didn't sleep well last night? Hey. You're really annoying. Dihaya sighed and said, forget it, you're a bit cheeky, but you're not a bad guy. You saved the lady. If you need help in the future, you can come to me anytime. I have many brothers, and I can definitely help you. In fact, in the Golden Brigade, there were also some bastards who resorted to women when they had money. But Yizai was different. At least in her eyes, Yizai treated women very well. It's not reasonable to have prejudice just because of other shortcomings. The folks in the Golden Brigade also had their flaws. Some of those men hadn't washed their feet for half a month and hadn't bathed when they sweated, so the camp stank. But they were honest and sincere, even risking their lives for their friends and brothers. It's obviously irrational to wear colored glasses because of the smell. Just like watching Yizai, at least Dihaya hadn't seen Yizai use brute force to subdue women. If people are in love with each other, what qualifications does she have to judge? After leaving Yizai's complex, Dunyarzad felt very comfortable. Being able to walk down the street like this was simply a luxury for her in the past. Life without the magical scale disease is truly wonderful. Dihaya, do you think I was lucky? Luck, I don't know, but miss. Seeing that there were pedestrians on the street, Dihaya leaned close to Dunyarzad's ear and joked, but your voice is very loud this morning. Eh? Dunyarzad's neck turned red suddenly, and she covered her face with her hands, wishing to find a crack in the ground. Dihaya. Ha 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 ha. Looking at Dihaya running ahead, Dunyarzad couldn't catch up to her. But the morning sun is indeed warm. The road transforms into a forest, and the city turns into a town. Mr. Great Inspector, our dried flower decoration is ready, we can sell it in the city. A pair of tall, white ears trembled, and then a warning voice came, Amir, how many times have I told you not to call me Great Patrol Officer? I can't take it anymore. Ha 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 ha, yes, Mr. Taina'uri. The guard smiled and said, if you're lucky with this batch of dried flower decorations, you can sell a lot of more. How? By letting Nazrin go? Taina'uri thought for a moment, nodded, and said, Nazrin and Kalai can go together, they can take care of each other. Kalai. Is her illness better? Ah, I see. Mr. Taina'uri wants Kalai to go into the city to find a doctor? After hearing what Amir said, Taina'uri sighed, with all due respect, there is no cure for Kalai's disease. Let her go to the city, I just think she has recovered well recently, let her try to walk a bit. Seeing that Taina'uri was so upset, Amir realized he had said something wrong and hurriedly shouted, then, I'll go to Kalai and Nazrin. Chapter 19, Can anyone cure the demon scale disease? Chapter 19, Can anyone cure the demon scale disease? Putting her backpack on her back and looking at the end of the forest in the distance, Kalai felt a bit scared. Kalai. Mr. Taina'uri said, if you feel uncomfortable, come back quickly. Well. I understand, Mr. Amir. Ms. Nazrin will take care of me, so I'm fine. Kalai waved to the trainer Amir behind her and set off with Nazrin by her side. Both Nazrin and Amir are forest guards and are very familiar with this forest. And Kalai is just a trainee forest guard who wants to accompany her superior to become familiar with the forest route. Kalai, if you feel uncomfortable, you must tell me. Nazrin felt sorry for this young girl. At first, when Kalai was sent by the disciplinary officer Sanuo, everyone thought Kalai was a lovely little girl, and everyone took the initiative to befriend her. Later, Kalai's demon scale disease appeared several times, which frightened everyone. In fact, she is a relatively introverted girl, and it is usually difficult to strike up a conversation with others, but when she is with Kalai, she unconsciously talks more. Perhaps it's because I truly feel sorry for Kalai and want to take better care of her. Kalai nodded, Senior, these dried flower decorations are those. Nazrin explained, the city merchants really like this type of flower, but they wither more and more after being picked. Mr. Taina'uri felt sorry for these flowers being thrown away, so he promised the vendor that he would recycle them for free and turn them into dried flowers for decoration. Of course, our work is free. However, if you find a wealthy vendor, you will earn a bit of mora, which can be used as expenses for our forest guard. So that's it. Listening to Nazrin's narration, Kalai walked deeper into the forest. As a trainee forest guard, the most important thing is to be familiar with the forest. Normally, Master Taina'uri would take her to observe nearby routes, But today she wanted to be braver. As they walked, they reached the deepest place they usually searched. Kalai had never been there before, and the tall trees around made her feel a little depressed. This feeling made her very uncomfortable, and she even felt her fingers go a bit numb. Fortunately, however, she quickly exited the forest. The clear and flowing water of Tiana'urn Pool makes people feel at peace. Kalai, do you see that giant tree over there? That's Sumeru City. You should still have an impression? Looking into the distance, one could see an extremely exaggerated giant tree. The entire Sumeru City is built on trees, which is very striking. I have an impression, Ms. Nazrin. Kalai nodded, silently memorizing the route. Follow this path, and you can go directly to the city. It's very simple, right? Nazrin walked ahead with a smile and said, you must follow closely, there will be many people in the city, so don't get lost. Okay. The two girls headed towards Sumeru City. House of Hueco. My god. It's the young lady who returned. Quick. Inform the master and the madam. Come with me and bring the young lady back. Be careful, don't scare her. The handyman in front of Hueco's house suddenly realized that their young lady was on the street not far away, and he was shocked. Nowadays, ever since Danzō secretly ran away from home, they have never had a moment of peace. Since the lady is not at home, the master and the madam are restless, and their servants need to go out to look for her from time to time. In just a few days, they have traveled hundreds of times, and Sumeru City has been turned upside down by them. Right now, a team of people was dispatched. Unexpectedly, my young lady is at the doorstep. Dihaya, look at the fabric here, it's so beautiful, it must look lovely when turned into clothes. Look, this watermelon is so big. It seemed that she had just recovered from a serious illness, and Danzō was particularly in a good mood. She feels that the world has changed. Even the well-known Sumeru City made her feel completely new and curious about all the places. Dihaya sighed, Miss, we're all at the door, let's go home first. The master and the madam are worried about you. Saying that, Dihaya also felt very relieved to see Danzō's lively appearance now. In the past, Danzō was ill, and it was impossible for her to participate in the fun like she is now. Perhaps, at that time, Danzō couldn't see Sumeru's prosperity. As he spoke, a large group of manual workers surrounded him. Miss, where have you been? Uncle Leal? Danzō recognized the family members and replied with a smile, I went to see Master Yi's eye. Master Yi's eye? That Khaenri'ah. If Leal had been struck by lightning, his heart would have turned cold. Of course, he knew about the enormous sum of money making noise in the city to hire a wife. My lady went to Yi's eye's house, what else could she be doing? When the passers-by and vendors around heard the words, Master Yi's eye, everyone immediately looked over. Uncle Leal, it's not what you think. Anyway, my illness is cured, let's go back and talk about this. Ah. Cured? Leal was shocked again, but aware of what was happening around him, he hurriedly said, go home first. Looking at the lady of the Hueco family and the handyman who hurried out, there was a commotion everywhere. Hey! They just said that Master Yi's eye cured Miss Hueco's disease? Chapter 20, Kalai's heart is touched by the hope of curing the magical scale disease. Looking at the whole city of Sumeru, who doesn't know the news that the young lady of the Hueco family is gravely ill? At that time, the master of the Hueco family paid a lot of money to find famous doctors and posted bounties all over the city, making them known to everyone. I remember that Miss Hueco's family suffers from a disease called magical scale disease. That's right. I've been struggling for a long time, and all the doctors in the city have seen her. Without exception, there's nothing they can do. Could it be that these well-known demonic diseases that cannot be cured have really been cured by the Khaenri'ahs? Impossible. I just saw Miss Hueco's skin, it's really much better than before. That Khaenri'ah man is really amazing. He first helped people awaken the god eye, and now he can even cure terminal illnesses? There was a lot of discussion going on. In recent days, there has been no news more explosive than the 4 words, Khaenri'ah people. There might be some who don't even know who the lady of the Hueco family is. But as soon as the words, Khaenri'ah, and Master Yi's eye, are mentioned, it immediately attracts a large group of people to discuss. Did you hear? Miss Hueco's magical scale disease has been cured. It was cured by Master Yi's eye. The family of Miss Hueco. Ah, I remember that girl is so beautiful. Who said she isn't? If that girl were healthy, someone would have came to propose marriage a long time ago. Since it was cured by that Khaenri'ah man, does that mean that the lady of the Hueco family has become someone else's concubine? What a pity, I never thought such a beautiful girl would fall into the hands of an old monster who has lived for 500 years. TSK, I already have the image of Beauty and the Beast. First the #1 beauty of Mialan Academy, And now the lady of the Hueco family, this Master Yizai is truly blessed. Near the flower shop, there is a small tea house. A group of people with nothing to do are drinking tea and gossiping. The men envy Yizai's beauty, while the women yearn for Yizai more and more. Ms. Nazrin, this is your payment. It's not much, but please accept it. The florist carefully stored the dried flower decorations, took a small bag of Mara, and handed it to Nazrin. Thank you, owner. They were originally free, so I accepted this Mara as your support for the guards. Although Nazrin is introverted, she knows a lot about the world. Just like now, if this Mora is accepted openly, there is nothing wrong with it. But it is inevitably impersonal. If it is called a subsidy for the forest guards, it will make the owner of the flower shop feel that he has a noble character, and he will still be willing to pay more next time. The shopkeeper laughed loudly. This amount of money is not a subsidy. The dried flower decorations you made are really beautiful, and many customers like them very much. Kalai, shall we go to the next flower shop? Kalai. Nazrin shouted several times, but Kalai beside her did not respond. I'm sorry, Ms. Nazrin. Kalai came back to herself and asked the florist, shopkeeper, I heard that people over there seem to be talking about curing the magical scale disease. Oh yes. The shopkeeper nodded and explained, it's the lady of the Hueco family. Hey, it's truly regrettable. The young lady has suffered from devil scale disease since childhood. They say she married Master Yizai and recovered from the illness. Seeing that Kalai was even more confused, the shopkeeper finally realized. Ah, you forest guards probably don't use vacuum terminals when you're in the forest. It's like this. There weren't many customers on Baoshang Street in the morning, and the flower shop was very quiet. The shopkeeper recounted the story of the incident. After Kalai finished listening, her gaze fell on an unknown place, and she was silently stunned. Nazrin felt a bit of a squeeze in her heart, but still persuaded her, Kalai, I know you really want to cure the devil scale disease. You also know that Mr. Tainari said there is no possibility of curing the magical scale disease. This Master Yizai doesn't seem like a good person, so these rumors might be to create a good reputation and attract more girls. In truth, she is not good at comforting people, she just wants to tell Kalai what she understands. After all, Kalai is still young and lacks social experience. In Nazrin's opinion, a person who wants to spend money to find a beautiful woman as a wife will certainly find a way to improve their reputation after being exposed to a cursed scandal. Otherwise, how could a woman be hooked? And the magical scale disease is one that the entire medical field of Sumeru has no remedy for. If this disease could be cured, she would surely become famous, in exchange for much praise and reputation. She was worried that Kalai would be deceived, so she went to find Master Yizai and became a lost girl. Originally, the pain is enough to torture people, but how useless would it be to be deceived and lose one's innocence? Kalai sighed softly, nodded, and said, I understand, Ms. Nazrin. I understand my illness, so I won't. Chapter 21, Her skill even scares Dihaya. Hueco house. What? You said you went to become a concubine of that Khaenri'ah's? The eyes of Dunyarzad's father, Shazaman, darkened, and he nearly fainted. His daughter is his heart and soul, and now she is suffering from an illness, and this kind of thing happened to him. Blame myself. If it weren't for not taking care of his daughter properly and letting her run away from home, his daughter wouldn't have been harmed. My poor daughter has been tortured by the devil scale disease since childhood, and now she has lost her virginity due to misfortune. Her mother beside him also started to cry. Dunyarzad tried to explain, but her parents seemed very shaken and couldn't hear anything. Until she took out the god eye. The bright green light illuminated the room, which calmed Shazaman down. God, the god eye? Seeing the transparent orb of the grass element in his daughter's hand, Shazaman's eyes widened. His daughter truly has the god eye. He couldn't believe that what he saw was real. This is the god eye. So, that rumor on the street. The rumor that you can obtain the god eye if you marry Master Yizai. Is it true? Upon hearing her father's words, Dunyarzad nodded repeatedly. But Shazaman didn't believe it and looked at Dihaya. He knew that his daughter had stayed at home since she was a child and could easily be deceived. But Dihaya is different. Dihaya is a member of the Golden Brigade, has a straightforward personality, and never tells lies. Master, the young lady is right. Seeing Dihaya nod, Shazaman fully believed. This is really... what a miracle. Seeing her parents calm down, Dunyarzad sighed in relief. Moreover, thanks to Master Yizai, all my illnesses have been cured. Cured? As soon as these words came out, Shazaman and his wife rushed to look at their daughter carefully. Looking closer, they were shocked to discover that the black scales on their daughter's body had disappeared. Instead, delicate skin. Hurry. Call the doctor. There is an elderly female doctor in the Hueco family who sees Dunyarzad all year round. The old woman arrived at the house and helped check Dunyarzad, showing a look of surprise. "Master, the young lady's illness has miraculously improved." Now, both Shazaman and his wife were shocked and speechless. The illness that had tormented the family for more than 10 years was cured. This is a huge surprise. Moreover, Master Yizai is not an old monster like the Void said. On the contrary, the master is very young and handsome. Good for me too. Speaking of which, Dunyarzad's voice was as thin as a mosquito. Suddenly, she realized that she was saying sweet words about her boyfriend in front of her parents. This made her very embarrassed. Shazaman looked at Dihaya. Dihaya nodded and said, Master Yizai is indeed very heroic, but what interests me more is his skill. Based on my speculation, I might not actually be his match. Dihaya spoke the truth, although she had always claimed to compete with Yizai before. Under her observation, Yizai had never shown any flaws. This kind of constant care can only be found in masters. If there were a real fight, she would be extremely cautious and always determine the route of retreat. After all, as a Golden Brigade, the competition isn't about who can fight, but about survival. Shazaman and his wife were surprised when they heard these words. Unexpectedly, this Master Yizai could be rated like this by Dihaya. They simply thought that happiness had arrived very suddenly. Their daughter had run away from home for 2 days. Not only was she cured, but she also received the God Eyes. And Master Yizai truly fulfilled their daughter's wishes so well. These are simply 3 blessings. Leal, spread my word. Celebrate tonight. Celebrate my daughter's recovery. Okay, sir. Leal immediately ran out of the courtyard cheerfully, and after a while, excited shouts came from outside. The young lady who had been sick since childhood was finally cured, and those servants were also very happy. The most important thing is that the banquet should be held in a way that even the servants can eat at the table. This is a happy event. At this very moment, Dihaya, who was beside them, suddenly said, Then, my lord, my confidence must have run out, right? Now that the lady is recovering from a serious illness, I don't need to stay here anymore. Upon hearing this, Shazaman, who was excited, suddenly changed his face. No. Shazaman's sudden change left Dihaya and Dunyarzad very surprised. Dihaya, I already treat you like a daughter. If you leave suddenly, my wife and I will always feel like something is missing. Well, you can stay here, be by Dunyarzad's side, or do something else. I can give you any reward you want. Shazaman calmed down and invited Dihaya. He couldn't let Dihaya leave no matter what. As this is Dihaya's father, ask him a little while ago. Chapter 22, Kalai, relax, do you feel better? Dihaya didn't expect Master Shazaman's reaction to be so strong when she mentioned her resignation. But she didn't think too much about it and said with a smile, You are all overreacting, I'm embarrassed to be so enthusiastic. Shazaman smiled superficially but sighed inwardly. Not long ago, Dihaya's father, Kusla, came to him, hoping to hire Dihaya. Since Kusla had saved his life, he agreed without hesitation. But the problem is that Kusla was in poor condition. A small regiment leader who was the legacy of the God King was limping on crutches, as if he had been beaten. And the tone of his speech also hinted at distress. He wondered if Kusla might be in serious trouble, perhaps even losing his life. If Dihaya left now, how would he face her savior, Kusla? Fortunately, Dihaya agreed to stay, which made him breathe a sigh of relief. The Humei family held a feast to celebrate the news that Dunyarzad was cured of the magical scale disease and obtained the God Eye, and the news spread quickly through the streets. Bayashang Street. Kalai, don't push yourself if you're not feeling well. Wait here, I'll deliver the dried flower decorations to the last vendor and be right back. Nazrin placed Kalai, who was struggling to breathe, on the bench and hurriedly ran toward the crowd with her backpack. Kalai was terrified. The growing crowd around her made her feel depressed and panicked. As she watched Nazrin's back gradually disappear, an indescribable fear overtook her heart. This feeling was like being abandoned. It reminded her of the time she accidentally fell off a cliff and hung onto a tree branch. Instead of lending a hand, her companion left her and walked away. The more she thought about it, the more breathless she felt. Oops. Kalai suddenly noticed that weak black scales began to grow on her arms, and they started to go numb. Then her cheeks, neck, and thighs. This sign indicated that the evil force in her body might be getting out of control. When Haiyan breaks the seal, her consciousness will be swallowed by the demon god's residue. Moreover, these innocent passers-by will also be engulfed by the black flames. At that moment, a hand suddenly touched her cheek. It's okay, take it easy, Kalai. Eh? Kalai's eyes widened, looking at the beautiful face that suddenly appeared in front of her, feeling confused inside. Because the place where Yizai's hand caressed was her scaly cheek. When most people see her scales, they shy away in fear. Why didn't the people in front of her dislike her at all? Relax. Yizai gently comforted and stroked the other person's face, taking the opportunity to look directly into her eyes and gradually calm her down. He could also feel the pulse of the other person with his fingers. He could sense that Kalai was very nervous now, and her heart was racing. Then, he used the skill, Forced Calm, on Kalai. Although this skill can be used by others, the effect depends on the mental strength of the other party. Obviously, Kalai's spirit was on the verge of collapse and very fragile, so he used Forced Calm several times before Kalai gradually calmed down. When Kalai regained her senses, she realized that her breathing had become much more stable, and the scales on her body had also disappeared. This feeling was truly comfortable. Do you feel better? Thank you. Kalai nodded, her eyes filled with gratitude. The scene of Yizai reaching out to her was reminiscent of when Amber reached out to her in Mondstadt. Excuse me. Your name is? I am Yizai. Eh? Kalai's face was shocked, she had just heard that name. You are the only one. Silence. Yizai made a silent gesture. Stay close to the Adventurers Association. If others knew that he was Master Yizai, who had paid a lot of money to hire his wife, that would be a big blow, right? In fact, he was there just to find a girl to sign up for the commission. It seems that the news that Dunyars possessed the god eye spread, and a large group of people went to the Adventurers Association to accept the commission. Yizai intended to choose, after all, good steel should be used wisely. Exia and Dunyars are not bad, so we can't waste our energy in vain. Moreover, the issue of the god eye is not a trivial matter. If you're not careful, you could create many god eye holders, which would break the balance. When Tamli realizes it, it will be problematic. It's a pity that after watching for more than 10 minutes, there weren't many who caught his attention. At that moment, he noticed Kalai sitting on the bench. Observing the other party's reaction at that moment, he judged that the residue of the demon god was about to break the seal. When the black flame serpent appeared on the street, there would be countless victims. Thinking of this, he took the initiative to help stabilize Kalai's mood. Kalai didn't expect that Master Yizai, who could cure the devil's scale disease, would appear in front of her this way. Moreover, he seemed like a different person from the supposed Yizai. What old crazy monster? Obviously beautiful. Chapter 23, I'll give you a big baby, do you want it? Kalai didn't know if it was a divine arrangement to find Yizai there. Right now, she could clearly feel that being touched by Yizai on the cheek made her feel at peace. Could there really be a cure for the magical scale disease? Maybe this was truly an opportunity for them to meet here. Thinking of this, she couldn't help but ask, Master Yizai, can you really cure the devil scale disease? I can. But there is a price to pay. Kalai fell silent upon hearing this. She didn't think Yizai was a bad person. If it were someone else, she would definitely not think this way, but since it was Yizai, she felt that he seemed very kind. If he could truly cure the magical scale disease, at least she could survive. Her fingers were no longer numb, and she could write well. She wouldn't have to worry about not being able to hold Master Tainari's medicine pot, she could become an excellent ranger. Then she could become someone like Amber. That's a rookie. It's a bright future. Seeing that Kalai remained silent, Yizai didn't push her. He wouldn't force anyone. Kalai, if you want to cure the devil scale disease, came to me at. He told Kalai the location of the complex and said, I will give you the future you desire the most. As soon as the words left his mouth, a voice came from not far away. Kalai. Nazrin ran over, and when she saw Yizai, she hurriedly thanked him. You took care of this child, right? Thank you, it was a great help. Worried about Kalai, even though she was afraid of strangers, she bravely came over to say hello. Yizai nodded, since your friend is here, let's say goodbye. After saying that, he left Baoshang Street. Kalai, who is this gentleman? Well, a good sir. Kalai promised Nazrin, secretly looking at Yizai's back, as hope ignited in her heart. Holy Order. The top floor of the Palace of Wisdom. What? Another woman has obtained the god eye? The great sage Azar stood up, frowning. Yesterday he went to Jingshan Palace to confirm. The little king of auspicious grass made no moves and was still well locked up. Therefore, he believed that Axia's god eye was a coincidence. But unexpectedly, today the young woman from the Humei family also has the god eye. This isn't right. The god eye doesn't have that many coincidences. Otherwise, god eye holders wouldn't be so rare. It's strange, is it possible that the Khaenri'ah people are really evil? Hearing Azar's soliloquy, the instructor next to him suggested, My lord, if this Yizai really has such magical abilities, wouldn't we be able to mass-produce more god eyes? Just capture him and study him. This proposal caught Hazard's attention. In the Holy Order Academy, the god eye is a very important subject. With the god eye, you can use elemental powers to fight. If a country has many god eye holders, it must be very strong. Capture Yizai and claim the legacy of Khaenri'ah. Use that legacy to research and create the god eye. The Holy Order Academy is not invincible. Thinking about this, Azar's eyes became excited. You're right. But there must be a valid reason before he can be captured. Azar thought for a while and said, in summary, send someone to check Yizai's residence first and then monitor it day and night. The goal is to see how this Yizai allows women to have the god eye. Yes. Yizai family courtyard. As soon as Yizai got home, a small figure jumped into his arms. Master, I'm back. After not seeing him all night, Uchiha eagerly smelled Yizai's scent. Even though she sensed the smell of other women, she had no thoughts about it. She knew she was just one of Yizai's wives. She was just enjoying the security. Since her most precious first night belonged to Yizai, she now felt that Yizai was everything to her. I went home yesterday and told my family about the master. They were very happy and praised me for finding a good support. Not only money, but also the god eye. Uchiha talked about what happened the previous day. She returned home with a huge amount of several million moras and gave it to her parents to resolve the family's financial difficulties. The Holy Order also severely punished Khaenri'ah and gave her a separate research room to compensate Uchiha. This is the treatment given to Hiban too. A separate research room is the dream of any academic. In fact, this isn't just compensation. If it were someone else, how could there be any compensation? This is entirely due to Uchiha having the god eye. Because of this, Uchiha was so happy that she couldn't sleep. While Uchiha was talking animatedly, Yizai noticed the little tail brought by Uchiha. It must have been accompanying Uchiha's return and secretly observing here not far away. No need to think too much, this must be the spy sent by the Great Sage. Yizai thought about this. Since the Great Sage sent someone to monitor, it means that the Great Sage was suspicious about the god eye issue. If these people are sure that he has the ability to give women the god eye, they will definitely use it for research. Like slicing, turning the knowledge in the brain into can knowledge, and so on. Thus, he needed to find a way to get rid of the spy. Thinking about this, he suddenly came up with a clever plan. He looked at Uchiha and asked, Uchiha, I'll give you a big baby, do you want it? Chapter 24, Your status in Khaenri'ah is absolutely extraordinary, big baby. Uchiha's face showed a bit of surprise, and then she blushed. Your naughty Yizai had a question mark on his face. I mean, seriously, baby. I want both the serious and the unscrupulous. What Uchiha said made Yizai think she was a good person. Why did this girl change so much overnight? Was it marrow that knew the palate? However, what Yizai didn't expect was that a handsome guy in the corner suffered critical damage. He thought they were here to spy on Yizai, but Yizai and Uchiha appeared. At that moment, Liang was filled with envy, jealousy, and hatred. Damn, this is the most beautiful beauty of the Miaolun sect, who just came of age a few days ago. The more he thought about it, the more jealous he felt of Yizai. Strength to calm down, Yizai calmed down a bit. The relic guards obtained from the previous system were placed in the portable space. As soon as he had a thought, a boom sound came from the courtyard, startling Uchiha. The dust dispersed, and a huge relic guard suddenly appeared in the courtyard. That enormous body scared the spy in the corner. Oh my god, of course, the spy saw the relic guards. This thing pretends to be dead by nature, and once activated, a casual slap can turn people into meat. And it will launch missiles to kill people. He once saw people around him die at the feet of the relic guards. Now, he felt that the missiles from the relic guards were aimed at him. Whoever likes to do this job will do it. The spy ran away, not daring to turn his head, afraid that in the next moment, a missile would fall on his head. And Uchiha in the courtyard was dazed, she couldn't believe what she was seeing. It's actually a complete self-regulating mechanism. She could hardly wait to get close to the relic guard and carefully observe its texture and core. The more she looked, the more surprised she became. Because she discovered that this relic guard was truly new. Whether it was the energy of the core or the texture of the surface, there was no wear and tear. For her, this was simply a great gift. It was the key to becoming a Kabanda. My god. My lord, where did you get this guy? Seeing that the spy had disappeared, Yizai shifted his attention and said, Don't forget, I'm from Khaenri'ah. It's not normal to have a self-regulating agency in Khaenri'ah. Yeah. Only then did Uchiha remember that the self-regulating agency was created by the Khaenri'ah civilization. I will give you this relic guard for your research. Yizai generously gave the relic guards to Uchiha. After all, he still had some left. Upon hearing this, Uchiha's little face was filled with disbelief, and she immediately became excited. Thank you, master. With this relic guard, I can not only complete the junior academic thesis but also write 2 more theses and become Hiban directly. Maybe I'll even win the Kapiju Master Award. This award is specially given to young scholars, which is of great importance. The young girl was already dreaming of great achievements in the future. But she quickly became sober. She knew that all of this was granted to her by Yizai, so she had to repay him. Master, I want to give birth to you. Palace of Wisdom. Upon hearing the news from the spy, Azar was shocked. Does this Khaenri'ah really have a self-regulating agency? Master Sage, he has such a dangerous mechanism that we should immediately send a group of 30 people to capture him. Azar frowned and said in a deep voice, do you think he dared to take out the self-regulating agency, but there's only one? Don't forget that he's a Khaenri'ah. This man must have mastered the power of Khaenri'ah technology. The instructor nodded thoughtfully, feeling a bit of fear in his heart. If he hastily captures people, he may have big problems. This was once the incomparably glorious Khaenri'ah civilization. The sage means. Azar thought for a moment. According to the spy, Yizai is really very young and has a strong figure, and he doesn't seem to be cursed. I suspect he is in an extraordinary position in Khaenri'ah. The investigation should start here. When necessary, use the power of fools. At night, Hueco. After Khaenri'ah returned, she kept thinking about what happened in the afternoon. The image of Yizai lingered in her mind. Seeing Khaenri'ah's perplexed expression, Khaenri'ah asked, Khaenri'ah, did something happen in the city? Master Khaenri'ah. Khaenri'ah struggled for a while but still told Khaenri'ah what she had seen in the afternoon. Upon hearing Khaenri'ah's words, Khaenri'ah pinched his chin. According to the science I know, it's impossible to treat the magical scale disease. However, I heard about that lady from the Hueco family. Her magical scale disease reached an advanced stage, and I don't think it can be cured. I'd rather believe that this person used a trick to deceive everyone and made them think the magical scale disease was cured. Khaenri'ah, I can go to the city to investigate? Khaenri'ah nodded slightly. I understand, Master Khaenri'ah. Have a good rest, Khaenri'ah. After speaking, Khaenri'ah left Khaenri'ah's treehouse. Although he said this, Khaenri'ah still couldn't set it aside in her heart. She wanted to quickly free herself from the devil scale disease. The more she thought about it, the harder it was for her to fall asleep. Suddenly, she thought of the place Yizai mentioned. Khaenri'ah quietly got up and looked outside the house. Noticing that everyone had rested, she quietly left the treehouse. Chapter 25, The Golden Brigade, sent her to the desert for a reason. Seeking data, there are dangers lurking in the forest at night, and the prey that has been hungry for a day is waiting to bite the bait in the dark shadows. But the forest at night is the most enchanting. The fireflies no longer hide in the bushes, they flap their wings and fly through the dense forest, forming a beautiful galaxy. The fungi in the forest, disguised as colorful mushrooms, have fallen asleep. Countless spores were emitted from their heads, shining brightly in the moonlight, like sparkling dust that would be blown away with a single sneeze. Khaenri'ah, don't be afraid. Khaenri'ah looked into the depths of the unlit forest, and the heavy darkness filled her with unease. She hugged the doll to comfort herself, but in reality, she was comforting herself. Thinking about the torment of the devil scale disease, she bravely took the first step toward Yizai. To cure the devil scale disease. Corianba is a cat doll that she sewed herself. Even though her hand was numb from the devil's scale disease, she still gripped the silver needle tightly and gradually drew the tip of Corianba. Her hands bore many wounds, but Corianba is very cute. As for the strange name, every time Khaenri'ah thought of that incident, she felt embarrassed to lift her head. In fact, she wanted to be called Corianba. It's a pity that she is illiterate, so they call her Corianba. Khaenri'ah walked through the forest, recalling the story of when she first arrived there. The surrounding trees were tall, and the dense leaves blocked the bright moonlight, leaving spots on the dark ground. Logically speaking, being a guard is not scary. But for some reason, Khaenri'ah felt disturbed, as if something bad was about to happen. Gradually, she felt a bit of numbness in her arms, and her cheeks also became very stiff. She reached out and touched the side of her face to confirm repeatedly, but the touch of her fingertips was actually the sensation of scales. This feeling made Khaenri'ah think in her heart that something was wrong. No, the devil's scale disease has begun to attack. The oppressive atmosphere around her left her breathless. Even the fingers on her hands and feet seemed to have started to become numb, and they were about to lose consciousness. At that moment, the dark forest in front of her suddenly opened up, revealing a massive ancient tree under the moonlight. They had already left the forest. Just walk a little further, and she would reach the city of Sumeru. Khaenri'ah resisted the numbness that had appeared in her body and stepped toward the city of Sumeru, step by step. Getting closer. Closer and closer to redemption. Suddenly. Unexpectedly, someone will really enter the city at night? You're new here, you're very lucky. This criminal record is yours for nothing. From both sides of the road, several figures suddenly stood up. In the moonlight, Khaenri'ah confirmed that they were not from the city of Sumeru. The red silk they wore was the symbol of the Golden Brigade. It's a little girl. I thought she was a rich local coming to the city at night. What a pity, it seems I can't get any money. Girls are nice too. She's new here, go get that girl and let everyone have fun. Captain Zaliman, I think she's young and looks pretty fresh, why don't you sell her in the desert? To be honest, those things in the desert have been done to pieces, it's very boring. Huh? That's a good idea, I think it's worth it, Mora. Several people looked at Kalai, conspiring shamelessly and loudly. Kalai heard Master Tainari speak about the dark side of the desert. These lawless golden brigades would kidnap women from the city and take them to the desert to become a tool for venting. From the initial resistance to despair, and finally to numbness. They would die in the desert within 2 years. Thinking of this, Kalai quickly grabbed her bow and arrows. What's up? Still a bit rebellious? The mercenaries from various golden brigades immediately paid attention and got ready. Although the girl in front of them looked very weak, to the desert mercenary, the sense of survival was very strong. Kalai pulled the bowstring tightly, but the numbness in her fingers prevented her from doing so several times. This time, Kalai panicked. No matter how hard she tried, in the end, she couldn't even hold the bowstring. She grew increasingly anxious, and her breathing became quicker. When she came to her senses, a black shadow suddenly appeared in front of her. It's a show. How weak. A mercenary shoved Kalai to the ground and clapped derisively. Everyone around laughed. Did you see? She can't even pull the bowstring. I found it amazing. How dare she scare us? Let her taste our strength soon. While everyone laughed, the newcomer suddenly pointed at Kalai and said, trembling, wait a minute. Group leader. There's something wrong with this person. When everyone heard these words, they immediately looked at Kalai, who was lying on the grass. They saw clusters of black flames emerging from her frail body. What? Is this woman cursed? I'm afraid it's not normal to be out alone at night. Look closely, is there something on her face? It's dark as pitch. The group leader, Zaliman, also felt a bad premonition and said, Rookie, kill her quickly. Luckily for you, this crime is yours. The newcomer swallowed hard upon hearing these words and walked towards Kalai step by step, with the scimitar in hand. Oops. The black flame is going to go out of control. Kalai was filled with fear and despair. If it were only the devil's scale disease, she could still be saved. But if the residue of the demon god broke the seal, her consciousness would be swallowed. Seeing the black shadow approaching step by step on the ground, Kalai closed her eyes. A childhood experience suddenly appeared before her eyes. At that moment, she helplessly watched as the doctor injected the black and purple residue into her body, and when the needle was pushed, the terrifying force released intense pain. No matter how hard she struggled, the ropes binding her hands and feet only tightened. She escaped from the burning laboratory and saw her partner lost in the wind and sand that filled the sky, falling under the torment and erosion of the demon god's residue. She fell into the mountain stream, tightly holding onto the branch that was about to break, but her partner just looked at her and turned to run for his life. That feeling of being abandoned, just like now. This is my end. Kalai heard the voice of death, but she heard an exclamation of surprise. You, who are you? Chapter 26, It's no problem not to take the meat from the wolf's mouth, but the dirty dog must not. Who are you? Several mercenaries from the Golden Brigade looked at the suddenly appearing man with cautious eyes. Just when the newcomer was about to deal with the girl, this person suddenly emerged without anyone noticing, shocking everyone. Oh? Are you talking about me? The night is long, I don't want to sleep. I just went out for a stroll. Upon hearing the man's frivolous response, the mercenaries felt as if they were facing a formidable enemy. Captain, there's something wrong with this kid. He didn't even make a sound when he walked. Yeah, when this kid got close. I didn't even notice. Did I meet a master? The group leader, Zaliman, scoffed coldly. What are you afraid of? There are so many of us, can't we take him down alone? As he spoke, he drew his scimitar and pointed it at Yuzai. Kid, one of the rules of mercenaries. Don't take the meat from the wolf's mouth. Under the moonlight, the long scimitar emitted a chilling green light. What reflected on the blade was Yuzai's smiling expression. Hey, don't get nervous. I'm just passing through. Seeing Yuzai's resigned expression, the mercenaries sighed in relief. Ha, he turned out to be a coward. I thought he was really powerful, but I didn't expect to persuade him so quickly. Don't say that about people, that's called blinking. Zaliman laughed and said, Fortunately, kid, we don't want to hold an extra vote today. That girl is ours. Be sensible and go away. In fact, if it were someone else, Zaliman would certainly have massacred him along with taking all his money. However, he always felt that Yuzai in front of him was dangerous. Perhaps it was the sixth sense he had trained in the desert for many years. He felt that the man in front of him was not weak. If he were greedy, something big could happen to him. Hearing Zaliman's threat, Yizai looked at Kalai, who had fallen to the ground. You said she belongs to you? Then I have to ask. As he spoke, he crouched down and caressed Kalai's cheek with his body. Strength to calm down, while using his ability, he asked, do you need help? Hearing a gentle voice in her ears, Kalai opened her eyes. Her breathing gradually calmed down. Although her eyes were hazy and she could only see a black shadow, the warm sensation of that large hand made her feel very familiar in her heart. It's Master Yi's eye. Kalai remembered that feeling. When he touched her cheek, it felt extremely comfortable. If you need help, just say so. The gentle voice sounded again. In an instant, all the fear and complaints flooded her reason like a tide. Before Kalai's eyes, memories of the past appeared again. In the treacherous mountains and forests, there were swift hunters. At that moment, they were leaning against a cliff, exhausted, and behind them came the roar of wild beasts chasing them. Out of panic, she fell into the mountain stream. Fortunately, in her panic, she grabbed a thin branch near the cliff and then extended her other hand, asking for help. But that companion, just casting her a complicated glance, chose to escape alone, without hesitation. Later, the roar of wild beasts echoed through the mountain stream. At the same time, heartbreaking screams from her companions could be heard. She was terrified and quickly withdrew her hand, firmly holding on to the branch that could break at any moment, until all the sounds quieted down. Since then, she only had one thought. It didn't matter if you asked for help or not. She no longer sought anyone. Until then, the girl in the red dress, who was as enthusiastic as fire, reached out to her. It was like a ray of light in the darkness, shining upon her. But at that moment, in her eyes, Yizai's figure seemed to overlap with Amber's. Help me. Help me. Kalai exhausted all her strength and spat out some unclear syllables. Yizai smiled slightly and said, asking for help is the most beautiful hymn to life. I admire your courage to overcome your psychological shadow, Kalai. To reward you, I will bring you salvation. Upon hearing these reassuring words, Kalai was a bit surprised. She felt that Yizai might know her past and her inner fears. Yizai slowly stood up, looked at the Golden Brigade mercenaries, and said with a smile, guys, it seems that today's meeting is some kind of destiny. I really like this little girl, so she's in my collection. For some reason, Zaliman felt that Yizai's aura had changed. The frivolity of before had disappeared, replaced by an invisible pressure. It was as if a fierce beast was no longer playing around but had stretched out its sharp claws. Kid, didn't you hear what I just said? Zaliman frowned and raised the scimitar again. What are you saying? Yizai pretended to think, then nodded. It's fine not to take the meat from the wolf's mouth. But the dirty dog must not. Chapter 27, Are you not afraid of the King God's legacy reckoning? Be afraid. Who are you calling a dirty dog? Stinking boy, let's test the temperament of the desert. Before Yizai could finish speaking, a robust mercenary suddenly raised a giant axe in his hand and launched a surprise attack. He was a descendant of a true warrior tribe whose vocation is to fight. Even a giant axe weighing hundreds of kilograms could still be easily wielded in his hands. When that axe fell, even the Scarlet King's temple would be destroyed. However, as soon as the axe was raised, a strong fist landed on his chest. Boom, the sound of flesh meeting flesh was dull and merciless. At the same time, a clear sound of bone breaking could be heard. Crack, Yizai didn't know how powerful this punch was. In fact, he had gone out at night to test his strength. He was just trying it out. A living and active slime would be transformed into flying slime condensate. You know, the slime's body isn't a gelatin pudding but a QQ candy, extremely resilient. If even the elastic slimes could be exploded, then the end could be imagined when encountering fragile humans. At the moment the fist penetrated the flesh, the mercenaries' internal organs were already ruptured. It seemed to be the reason for walking in the desert all year round. The clothes worn by the mercenaries were covered in wind and sand. After the enormous force devastated the mercenary's body, the result came from the depths of his heart, raising a cloud of dust. Kang dang, the giant axe fell powerless to the ground, making a loud noise. This loud sound was like a toll for the dead echoing over everyone's heads, making the mercenaries shudder. Then, Yizai grabbed the mercenary by the neck and threw him away like trash. What? How is this possible? It's such a powerful force. He's a living person weighing 200 caddies, and he can lift him with one hand. Monster. He's a monster. Seeing their fallen companion on the ground, the mercenaries were terrified. However, the rhetoric about 200 kilos of living people. Obviously, this person had lost his vitality and had become a still warm corpse. Such a frightening scene that even the leader's Aliman couldn't help but tremble. You dare to provoke someone from the King God's legacy? The King God's legacy? Yizai froze for a moment and began to think. It was like the Golden Brigade in the desert, a notoriously large brigade that would forsake any morality for Mora. Among them, there are numerous small groups managed from the top down by the headquarters. To maintain order within the regiment, those in power would use overwhelming force and unquestionable majesty to deter the members. Moreover, the most important method is the criminal record. All members of the King God's legacy must leave a record. The so-called criminal record is a dirty, immoral, and unforgivable record. This is a symbol of loyalty and also a trump card in threatening situations. It is because of the case history that members of the King God's legacy cannot get rid of the organization. Once disowned, the organization will make the criminal record public, and the only thing awaiting the traitor is a prison sentence. Yizai remembered that in Ormo's port, there was an organization called Akmel's Eye. There was also Dihaya's father, who was also a member of the King God's legacy and was the leader of a team called Akmer's Beard. Seeing Yizai lost in thought, Zaliman tried to hold on to anything. He thought that Yizai was afraid of the power of the King God's legacy, so he began to say alarmingly, "We are the Golden Brigade under the King God's legacy. I am the leader of the Akmer Feet. You provoked the King God's legacy and will face endless vengeance. Not even the Sumeru city can protect you." Upon hearing Zaliman's words, the mercenaries around regained their courage and echoed, "That's right. Apologize immediately. I advise you to hand over that girl and keep all the money on your body as compensation for us. Otherwise, the King God's legacy will liquidate everything." Originally, I thought that upon hearing these words, Yizai would obediently comply, but unexpectedly, Yizai laughed loudly. "Why are you laughing?" Yizai dusted himself off and asked, "Are you threatening me?" Before Zaliman could respond, Yizai said again, "I was in a good mood and might have given you a chance to live. However, if you dare to threaten me, it will be difficult for you to survive." Before his voice fell, electricity crackled in the air. The purple electric light was tangled like a spider's thread, making a crack sound. Seeing this scene, everyone was filled with a sinister premonition. Just like people in the desert, the sixth sense in their genes told them, "Run away." As soon as Zaliman, the leader, turned his head, he felt his back go numb. He lowered his head and saw a purple thread of electricity passing through his chest like spider silk. This electric current seemed as fragile as a newborn sprout but was extremely resilient. Passing through his chest, the spider thread instantly connected to the younger brother who was about to flee in front of him. In the blink of an eye, they all formed a line. Zaliman froze. Chapter 28, Let me check your physical development for you. Zaliman froze. An unprecedented sense of fear enveloped his brain, freezing from the nape of his neck to the tailbone. He looked at Yizai like a machine, only to see the remaining smile at the corner of Yizai's mouth. "No. No, no, no. Number." The miserable plea for mercy lasted less than a breath, and everyone felt the blood boil in their chests.